than 216 million people globally could become internally displaced because of climate change. Climate change indeed increases humanitarian crisis and places growing pressure on state institutions, security agencies, and emergency response systems. Therefore, and as we know, Africa remains among the regions most vulnerable to climate change, despite contributing least to these global challenges. Across the continent, climate change disasters are affecting peace, security, and development. We continue to witness prolonged drought in the Horn of Africa, violent competition over grazing land and water, devastating cyclones in Eastern and Southern Africa, severe floods in Eastern and Western Africa, and the increasing displacement of vulnerable populations. And according to the African Development Bank, climate change could reduce Africa's GDP by as much as 15% by 2050 if adaptation measures are not taken immediately. Distinguished colleagues, according to the government reports and the World Bank, the 2024 El Nino floods and Cyclone Idai affected more than 220,000 people nationwide, causing around 150 deaths, and of course damaging critical infrastructure across multiple regions. The government, I know and we all know that the government indeed intensify unemployment, informal settlements, inequality, and the social vulnerability. These realities demand a new understanding of security. National security, therefore, today is not only about protecting borders. It's also about protecting food systems, water sources, critical infrastructure, ecosystems, public health, energy systems, and the resilience of communities. This is why the topic is important today, and science and research has to come into play to address these challenges. The government of Tanzania, under the leadership of Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, remains firmly committed to strengthening climate resilience and environmental sustainability as enshrined in the Vision 2050 and the long-term perspective plan, and of course, the CCM Party Manifesto. Important initiatives continue to be implemented through the National Environmental Policy of 2021, as I mentioned this morning, the Environmental Management Act, which is going to be under revision later this year, the National Climate Change Response Strategy, the National Adaptation Plan, the National Determined Contribution, where we are going to provide the third report later this year. Therefore, building resilience in a changing environment requires even greater urgency and stronger partnerships. We therefore must integrate climate risks into national security planning, strengthen disaster preparedness and emergency response systems, invest in climate resilient infrastructure, protect forests, wetlands, and water catchment areas, promote climate smart agriculture and sustainable land use, improve urban planning and flood management systems, expand environmental education, research, and public awareness, and of course, strengthen scientific innovation and research, as I said. Dear colleagues, as we commemorate 40 years of NEMC, we must recognize that environmental protection is no longer optional. Environmental sustainability is now directly linked to national stability, economic resilience, public safety, and of course, national security. The floods in Rufiji, the landslides in Hanang, the droughts in central Tanzania, and the impacts of Cyclone Idai, as I have already mentioned, all remind us that climate change is already shaping the future of our nation. The question before us is no longer whether climate change is real, but how are we prepared to tackle it? And therefore, we need to prepare to adapt. We need to prepare to build resilience. We need to prepare to protect our people our economies and our national security. Let us, therefore, use this opportunity to ensure that we deliberate on science, innovation, and collective action to build a resilient Tanzania and a secure Tanzania's capacity to thrive in a changing climate. On behalf of the Vice President's Office, once again, let me congratulate NEMC for the 40 years of dedicated service to our nation, and I wish you fruitful deliberations.
Thank you so much, Dr. Muyungi, for your quite interesting keynote speech. May I take from where you ended, where you say that we have to enhance our resilience and our adaptive capacity of our community. So may I pose a question to Dr. Changa, who is at the research hub of the Tanzania Meteorological Agency. You are tracking the data in the sky. So my question is, resilience starts with data. How can TMA's climate projections be better utilized by the private sector to their investments? Welcome.
Okay. Hello. Okay, thank you very much. Let me also take this opportunity to express my deep appreciation and thanks to being invited to this historical event, and congratulations to NEMC, my sister, Dr. Semesi, congratulations, and also Katibu Mkuu, tunashukuru sana kwa keynote speech. So I will start by underscoring what Dr. Richard Muyungi has alluded to in his keynote speech. First, reminding some of the key statistics and some of the key information. On 23rd of September 2023, we had a tropical cyclone Daniel hitting the coast of Libya and causing more than 5,000 deaths and a lot more people missing. And on 4th of May 2024, we had a tropical cyclone Haya hitting for the first time in a long time the coast of Tanzania in Kilwa. And we recorded around 316 millimeters of rainfall in 24 hours, which is a very huge amount. The monthly mean for Kilwa is 96 millimeters, while in 24 hours we corrected more than 316 millimeters. So when the permanent secretary was talking about the extreme events and also during the opening ceremony, that's what it means. And this underscores what we've been calling from IPCC for many years, that the extreme events are increasing both in frequency and intensity. And therefore, we need urgent action, adequate effort in order to address this. Now, data is critical, and the capacity to be able to project, to predict this extreme event is very, very important. And the Secretary General of WMO back in 2023 noted that the death in Libya could have been avoided if, for example, Libya had a well-functioning meteorological services, which was not the case by that time. But this is different from Tanzania, the United Republic of Tanzania. The government have done tremendous investment in strengthening meteorological infrastructure and also human resource capacity, and therefore we are capable to project and tell you the potential for any extreme event in the future. Just to summarize in terms of the data regarding, for example, the warming that Dr. Richard alluded to, the last 3 years, have been the warmest in history of the world since we started instrumental observation. 2023, 2024, and 2025 are the warmest year in record, according to the World Meteorological Organization. With 2024, we see a warming of 1.55 degrees Celsius, and 2025, of course, 1.48. As we are speaking, 2026 is also projected to be among the warmest, maybe 3 warmest years in the record. Therefore, the extreme events are increasing and they will continue to increase, particularly warming and also intense rainfall. And therefore, we need to continue strengthening our early warning system, which we are doing in the United Republic of Tanzania. And I would stop there and happy to answer any question further.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Changa. As you have said, that the extreme events are increasing at the highest pace in Tanzania, and we really acknowledge the TMA for the support you're extending to the United Republic of Tanzania in terms of data availability. Now my second question goes to Edmund Mabuye. You are in academia, and you have been involved in a lot of research about climate change, leading from your profile. And my question is, what are the most significant institutional capacity gaps your research has identified in Tanzania's current environmental framework, and how can academia better collaborate with regulatory bodies like NEMC to bridge these gaps for national stability?
Yeah, thank you very much, moderator, and thank you for the invitation to attend this panel session. Before maybe I advance to the question, maybe I just wanted to contribute to the data and the climate resilience, building on what my mentor, my brother, has just said. Data basically is power, especially when we want to write a good proposal. The most important and the critical part of it is having a good data. But most of the challenges we face maybe is how the data maybe might have been generated. So you need to have at least a critical and a methodology that is replicable and can be accessible, and the data also has to be accessible. And we need also to have one center data shop where we can also access them to write good proposals to access especially this large funding. Now to the question, what are the critical capacity gaps, particularly to what are the needs? One is actually to have a good knowledge of climate change, because one of the issues that we face is to have a critical understanding of what might be issues driving climate change, because climate change, understanding of climate change is actually something that needs a good knowledge, and that knowledge can be obtained through a good training. But also a good training, to have a good training, you need to have good research, because that is where we get an experience. And maybe going down to the how can we collaborate. One, the university is actually dedicated to build capacity to various stakeholders. Capacity through long-term trainings, but also short-term trainings. And so we have area where we need to understand the demands of the stakeholders so that the university can be prepared to provide relevant knowledge and expertise to stakeholders. But also we can collaborate with the NEMC and other stakeholders, particularly on funding mobilization, to have writing good proposals, and we can also support from the university perspective on research, having good research we can also collaborate on issues related to outreach programs to provide some consultancy services. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you so much. Yeah, of course, you have emphasized more on the forging partnership with NEMC, especially on resource mobilization, because as we understand that NEMC would like to move more extra miles, but considering the scarcity of resources, then you have provided an alternative that you can forge a partnership, NEMC with other research institutions, universities, to mobilize the resources by writing together the funding proposal that can be funded by external donors. Another questions go to Mr. Shea Mujaja, who is the DG for Zanzibar Environmental Management Authority. You are at the policy coordination, and I would like to know from you, what are the biggest bottleneck in moving from resilience planning to visible socioeconomic security in your context in Zanzibar? So you can share with us, probably may have a lesson to take from Zanzibar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I've joined with my colleague to thank you, NEMC, for this colorful 40 years anniversary or establishment of NEMC. If you look, the keynote speech of Dr. Muyungi said that climate change is not an environmental issue. But generally, if you look all our policies and even the legal frameworks, is considered climate change as an environmental issue. But generally, climate change is beyond of the climate change issue. And we are talking with the climate change that cause national security. Means we need to have a clear policy mechanism. We need to have clear legal mechanism that outline climate change vividly, not to be considered as environmental issues. But the second one, you know, we don't have the policy or whatever legal framework that going beyond grassroots level. Generally, the communities are more affected by climate change, but we don't have any clear connection, clear policy mechanism that connect with the grassroots community to ensure their resilience. Generally, our policies end up on at the national level, not go beyond to the local level. And the majority of our local communities are more impacted by climate change. Their livelihood, daily livelihood, it depends on the environment, environmental resources, and that are more affected by climate change, but the policy does not go down to them. The third one, you know, because our social livelihood depends on the natural resources, the daily life, and we don't have our legal mechanism, enforcement mechanism. We have the environmental challenges, but the proper legal mechanism to ensure compliance and to ensure compliance to the community is very weak. It's not adequate to ensure clear mandate, to ensure compliance, to ensure to enhance climate resilience to the community. So we have inadequate enforcement of the environmental laws. We have inadequate enforcement environmental policy, but also the capacity within the community, the local community. You know, our intervention does not build a clear capacity to the community to ensure their resilience, to ensure compliance. Most of the community, they don't clearly understand and even they don't receive proper information on climate change. So we need to ensure to have the clear institutional arrangement that will enhance clear community, they will understand, community, they will participate, and the community, they will ensure environmental compliance to sustain their social livelihood. Thank you.
Thank you. As you have emphasized on has really emphasized on this. And connecting to that, I have the question to Ms. Clara Makenya from UNEP. There are these big concepts of climate change, resilience, adaptations. These two concepts seems to be like traveling ideas from the global north to the global south. How, at UNEP, how do you, what do you do or ensure the local content in these two concepts are taken on board?
Thank you very much. Let me also join my colleagues to congratulate NEMC for the 40 years commemoration. Hongera sana NEMC. It's 40 years of celebration of longevity, but also 40 years of recognition of your important role in the environmental management and leadership. So hongera. So in terms of how UNEP brings the global sort of perspective or content down to the ground, or to translate it to the local content, I would say it comes directly from our mandate. So very important mandates from UNEP includes promoting partnerships in advancing the environment agenda. So UNEP does not work in isolation with the rest of partners. UNEP works with member states, with governments, including the government of Tanzania. UNEP works with major groups, so including youth, women. UNEP works with the private sector. UNEP works with academia. So as we promote these partnerships, we also work through these partnerships to translate and to support the understanding of the perspective, the resilience, adaptation, and all mechanisms that's part and parcel of the whole of climate change agenda. We work through these partners to translate to the different niches, to the different angles that need to be sort of taken on board for implementation. UNEP is and has been a secretariat to a number of conventions, but UNEP has a very big platform. It's almost like a General Assembly for Environment. It's called United Nations Environment Assembly, that has all the ministers from the 194 member states. So in our work in supporting policy, we also channel this, the needed information, the needed package through the policymakers themselves. And the policymakers, as we all know, go all the way down to the ground. So they are the ones that are also working with the community members, from the different constituencies that they are representing. But I will also say that also UNEP works very closely with academia and other bodies to produce reports. We have Dr. Changa here with us. The IPCC is one of the reports that actually, collects the different data and information that further translates and unpacks the big concepts, the resilience issues, the climate change adaptation issues, how they affect and how they shape, we are talking about the national security and linkages with climate. So it does not just go like that without the right information on board to support decision making. So translation or generation of this information, generation of data, analysis of data, and further dissemination of data also supports the translation of the big agenda, the big environmental agenda, from the global context to the local content. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we really commend you for what you are doing in translating those global actions, trying to integrate the local content. This is very important because we have the so-called indigenous knowledge, and how do we make sure that we integrate the indigenous knowledge, because climate change is not a new phenomenon. It has been there for ages, and these people have been living. And it's important to recognize the role of indigenous knowledge in adapting to climate change and enhancing resilience. So thank you so much. Let us give a big round of applause to our panelists for responding very well to the first round of questions. Now it's a turn to the audiences. So if you have a question or a comment, now is your time. The ushers with the mic, can you pass on the mic to those who want to ask questions? So you can raise up your hand if you want. Okay, pass the mic there.
I just raised my hand because I saw hands coming very slowly from the rest of the people. But I just wanted to make a contribution on the issue of resilience to climate change. I think when we look at this in a bit of detail, you realize that one way, and probably the main way of dealing with this, is to ensure always environment is mainstreamed in economic planning. Without mainstreaming, there is no way an institution, for example, responsible for bridge construction will be able to know that now this kind of bridge we have today cannot withstand the climate change impact that is coming tomorrow. So in our next budget, we need to raise the bridges by 3 meters and probably increase the length of the bridge as a mitigation. So resilience in national planning has to go with the whole planning and budgeting process. So if I want to look at NEMC, for example, in the future, I would see a NEMC which would be contributing guidelines on mainstreaming environment, you know, in the general budget guidelines of the country, so that every sector is actually has an input from the organization. I think this is how I see it, and this would apply in every sector, in agriculture, in livestock, in health, and so on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Another question. Thank you for your contribution. This is very important, I think. Another question.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And I think I need to. So my question or my plea goes to Dr. Muyungi. Dr. Muyungi has been a champion in as far as advocating for climate change in the country is concerned. And now, given his position, there is this urge, or rather a call by the government, that the ministries are supposed to be mainstreaming or establishing desks or sections or departments that are environmental related or climate change. And specifically now, because of the session, is on climate change. Now, given your position, how do we link between theory and practice? How do we make things happen? Because we have always been crying and praising the Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Water, Minister of Health. And very little is being done by the rest of the ministries. The Minister of Finance is also establishing a section or a department to coordinate climate finances. What about the rest of the ministries? How do we make sure that we link between theory and practice in your leadership and your custodianship? Please, thank you so much.
Thank you. Another 2 last questions. There. Can you pass the mic there? Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to add to what Mr. Muheto just said, the issue of mainstreaming climate change into development planning. I think what is also important is that when you go down into the planning of the projects, there is this requirement of environmental impact assessments. And therefore, it is also very essential and important that we look into how to integrate this, the methodologies of how to integrate climate change resilience and climate change challenges specifically into environmental impact assessments, because this is really a challenge with this, and this implies also the need for capacity building in that area as well as guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Integrating climate change in environmental impact assessment, I think this is very important. You will get responses from Dr. Muyung and Sheha at the level of the policy coordination and implementation. Another, can pass with the mic there.
Thank you for giving me this chance. I would like to ask Madam Kralama Kenya, to what extent UNEP support innovators who are working tirelessly to eradicate waste plastics from our surroundings, particularly as Maersk Petrochemical Tanzania. We met Madam Kralama Kenya, but up to date, nothing has going on.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you for the question. I think for those who have more questions, you can reserve them, and probably at the end of the session, you can meet respective panelists, and then you have one-on-one conversation to get your responses. So, may I start with Madam Ms. Clara to respond? I give you 2 minutes, please.
Sure whether I got the question well, but I heard about innovators that are tirelessly working in addressing plastic pollution. So just as I shared, actually UNEP does not have presence in many countries. Tanzania is just one of those which has very limited presence, and that's why we really treasure partnerships. And when I talk of partnerships, I also refer to how we are working within the UN system as one big UN family. So from here, I can also advise you to also link up with some of initiatives, or rather mechanisms that are supporting innovators. For example, our sister agency, UNDP, is supporting a program called Funguo, if you have heard of Funguo program. This is one of the programs that is supporting innovators. So as far as country level implementation is concerned, as far as, the actual practices and interventions on the ground is concerned, they are actually partners that we are working with who are doing it better, because the mandate is there. Our mandate is really on the policy, regulatory frameworks, assessments, studies, etc. And we really want to connect policy with practice. And that's why we use partners on the ground. We use partners across the board, just as I shared earlier on the partners that we are working with. So I congratulate you and all those innovators that are doing hard work. But I also wanted to highlight something here. In Tanzania, UNEP has worked actually very closely with Dr. Muyungi on a youth platform. So there is a youth platform that youth are working, in terms of bringing together what they are doing. They get exposure in terms of who can be there to support them. They get the audience, their voices come out in terms of what they are doing. So I also encourage all the youth and the innovators, especially young people, to look for these kind of platforms, which is making it easier for them to be supported and to have their, the support channel through their various angles. So, yeah, maybe I can end there for now.
Thank you. Dr. Chang, 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just wanted to reflect on the question about mainstreaming climate change into environmental management, and particularly environmental impact assessment and strategic environmental assessment. So the government established the Tanzania Meteorological Authority Act number 2 of 2019, which provide the requirement for ensuring that all sectoral activities, including environmental management, need to mainstream latest climate and weather information to ensure safety of our construction and also our different projects. So I would like to thank NEMC. We are working very closely with NEMC on that, and also I would like to underscore about the essence of national security when it comes to climate change. And just remind you, the 6th assessment report of the IPCC highlighted that if we continue with business as usual scenario, warming will reach 1.5 by 2030-2050, of which 70 to 90% of coral reef will be gone, will disappear. So this is an issue of national security, and therefore what our permanent secretary have been presenting and highlighting the essence of national security is very critical, especially when we relate to uchumi wa blue economy. It's very important for us to ensure we take into consideration latest weather and climate information, and I will end my intervention by requesting and urging us to follow and adhere to the weather report and also the advisory and warning that we are issuing every day and on monthly basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chan. Dr. Mabuye, please, can you respond to question or any comments that were raised?
Yeah, thank you very much, moderator. I'll also emphasize on the question of mainstreaming. What I wanted just to emphasize that we have, I think Tanzania has done a lot in terms of what we have, policies. We see mainstreaming in terms of what we put in policies and the strategies. Even at a higher level, we have the dealer is also emphasizing on the same. But what is more important is that it is not about the obligation we put in policies. It's also about what we put in terms of implementing those policies. That is very critical. And secondly, it is also about how do we monitor where are we in terms of what we have implemented. We need to have data to see how far we have gone and where we have some gaps and how can we address those gaps. And to have maybe also to have the implementation process and the monitoring to be effective, you need to have systematic funding. Because it's also, it is not about saying this year I have this much, but it is also about saying this is our commitment. We put it from what we have domestic, but also partnering with our partners to secure more funds, which can realize what we have pledged in the policies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mabuye. So may I invite Mr. Haj?
Sure. Thank you very much. For me, you know, I would prefer Tanzania to have a standalone climate change policy rather than to include a climate change within the environmental policy. But also I agree that we need to mainstream environmental impact assessment, to mainstream climate change issue within the environmental impact assessment. And mostly, you know, environmental impact assessment is a process, and which include many steps. Very important step is scoping exercise. And at that scoping exercise, you may outline climate change issues if will impact the project. In that area, then you will identify, and it could be mainstreamed within the analysis of the project, and then you can provide the mitigation measures for that climate change if it will be addressed under the scoping. But I would prefer Tanzania to have standalone climate change policies that are across all sectors. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, may I invite Dr. Richard Muyungi to respond on those questions on policy issues and coordination. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I think my colleagues have responded to many of the issues. One which was raised by Dr. Henkud, I think, this is the issue of establishment of the focal points in each of the ministries. Let me reconfirm that the establishment of focal points in the ministries and government departments is a legal requirement. It's in our law, and it's like this morning when we heard the story of NEMC. When we started NEMC, there was no immediate buy-in in terms of the importance of NEMC and how we could be going along with our institution. And when we established EMA, I think there was slow buy-in in terms of how do you operationalize the articles of EMA. I think one area was how best can we operationalize the articles related to establishment of national focal points in each of the ministries and government departments. But let me assure you that in recent years, the momentum has taken pace. And as you rightly said, we have ministries which are full-fledged units, like the Ministry of Agriculture, Finance, which are operational, and in fact giving benefits to those ministries, because this is where they link closely with us, they report frequently, and there is also a benefit of understanding what's happening in those ministries. And we are now in a process of reminding and working with my colleagues in the various ministries that this is a legal requirement, and we are moving to establish that, to ensure that all ministries now do have these units. One thing which I think, as I said, is very important to understand is that the sooner you establish these units, the better, because there are areas where we can easily interact. There are government directives where we, as the Vice President's office, we can easily reach out to all these government institutions. And of course, now that we are implementing Vision 2050, it is even more imperative that we work closely with all government departments and of course ministries to ensure that we are on the same page as we enter now in the 2050 vision implementation phase. And this will happen, and I can assure you that as a government we are in a collective agreement that these units are extremely important and they are going to take shape in all ministries. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let us give a big round of applause to our panelists for the good work they have done. So thank you so much for your question and a very interesting discussion. And let me hand over to the MC. Thank you so much.
Wakati wanapiga picha ya pamoja, naomba kwa mara nyingine tena tuwapigie makofi. Tunaye miongoni mwetu Malkia wa Taarab Tanzania Bi Hadija Kopa. Naomba aje tuchangamshe kwa dakika 3. Taarabu huwa inachukua dakika 20, lakini mimi nampa dakika 3 tu tuweze kuchangamka, tuendelee na jopo la 3 ambalo ni kubwa na ni la msingi sana. Lakini wakati Hadija Kopa anajiandaa, naomba nionane na mwendesha mada wa jopo hili ambaye siye mwingine bali ni sio bibi, Bwana Elibariki Bajuta. Sijui amekaa wapi? Elibariki? Naomba upo, asante. Basi naomba tuonane hapa pembeni wakati tunapata burudani fupi tukiwa tunanyosha viungo vyetu ya bibie Hadija Kopa, Malkia wa Taarab Tanzania. Bi Hadija Kopa, karibu.
Idi Majidi Raison Home Team Cover Uchimida. mjini pesa, shikamoo makelele, chezesha akili kwa namba na kufahamisha mtoto wa mjini ujanja mambo ya rare. Chezesha akili kwa namba wa Mombasa, Tanzania, bara na Zanzibar, watoto wa mjini wenyewe mnanijua. Wa Mombasa, Tanzania, bara na Zanzibar, watoto wa mjini wenyewe mnanijua. Na wewe mwenyewe maisha ukayapanga, na ukitoka unapiga pamba japo hujajenga. Japo nyumba kupanga usijali, wala sikuwa na fahari ndo mtoto wa mjini, wala sikulewa sana kaona umewini. Kubadilisha mabwana si mtoto wa mjini wala nini, usiharibu mazingira. Au wanawake wengi julikane wewe nani, usije ukaha wewe ndo hapa mjini. Au wanawake wengi ujulikane wewe nani, usijipe ukaha wewe ndo hapa mjini. Mjini shule, mjini chuo kikuu, mjini shule, mjini chuo kikuu. Mjini sisimu roho ya kupata ufahamu, mjini chuo kikuu roho akili yako iwe timamu. Mjini sisimu roho ya kupata ufahamu, mjini chuo kikuu roho akili yako iwe timamu. Waweza kuwa na simu usipigi, na hata message usitumiwe, hata wakukubipu usibipiwe. Waweza kuwa na simu usipigi, na hata message usitumiwe, hata wakukubipu usibipiwe. Tajwa mjini mambo makini, mjini pesa, shikamoo makelele, natembea kwa mguu lakini nalala ndani, wala sijipima kunaridhika na thumni. Tajwa mjini mambo makini, natembea kwa mguu lakini nalala ndani, wala sijipima kunaridhika na thumni. Nahangaikia tumbo siadhiriki mjini, nakula nachotaka na wala siombi mitaani. Nahangaikia tumbo siadhiriki mjini, nakula nachotaka na wala siombi mitaani. Atamwaga mapamba uwezo wangu jamani, hapa sikuja na lapa naendea chooni. Atamwaga mapamba uwezo wangu jamani, hapa sikuja na lapa naendea chooni. Lakini njiani nikipita, huyo ndo kopa jamani, watu wananitafuta mimi vyema sijini. njiani nikipita kopa, ai watu wananitafuta mimi vyema si mjini. Mama Zuchu Jojo Kaire sema nao.
Asante, naomba washiriki wote tusimame, naomba tusimame. Bi Hadija Kopa. Sija kuondoa, nataka wacheze na wewe. Aya, naomba wote tunesenese, tulete damu izunguke mwilini. Naomba jirani yako kama amekaa mwinue. If we can all please rise. And you only take one step.
Niweka mjini, anayenilinda Mungu, na mala najiamini piga kelele yake, naheshimu kazi yangu, ndio hilo niweka mjini, anayenilinda Mungu, na ndio maana najiamini siwe mwenye maringo, unamringia nani, aona haringia, walokupa umaarufu mjini. Siwe mwenye maringo, unamringia nani, aona haringia, walokupa umaarufu mjini. Na waheshimu mume wangu Mungu, anachotaka simuhini sio usawa wangu, nimvunjie heshima jamani. Na muheshimu mume wangu darling, anachotaka simuhini baby, sio umaarufu wangu, nimdhalilishe jamani. Mume wangu nakupenda, usimwambie mwingine hayo maneno, wacha wapambe waseme, sio kwako baba, napenda yako mashine sweetie wangu nakupenda, usimwambie mwingine hayo maneno, wacha wapambe waseme, sio kwako baba, napenda yako mashine. Nakupenda mpenzi wangu, nakupenda usiniache baby wangu, nakupenda habibi wangu, nakupenda usiniache. Wale walio wajinga umaarufu wameubeba kichwani, walikuja na mitumba, sasa wanaingia dukani, wanatuona wajinga kwa ulimbukeni, mjini mtasarenda na tuboa jamani. Haya. Wale walio wajinga umaarufu wameubeba kichwani, walikuja na mitumba, sasa wanaingia dukani, wanatuona wajinga kwa ulimbukeni, mjini ukija na jembe, shoga utani malami Wambie usiwache.
Haya, tumalizie.
Wambie wajirekebishe. Wambie usiwache. Wambie wajirekebishe.
Makofi kwake Bi Hadija Kopa.
Asante sana. Mwanamke jeuri dawa yake muibie mumewe. Kama kamari nzuri niacheni nimbeti mumewe. Nasema ni mchambe, masela ni mchambe. Mumeo sikumwita na wala sikumtafuta. Kaniana naita na mvuto ndio akanasa. Nasema ni mchambe, masela ni mchambe. Bwana anasema ndio, kila nalo mwambia, moyo wake humwenda mbio. Jina lako nikimtajia, kwangu hakupenda makalio, amekipenda kifua. Wajanja tuko bize, tunafanya mishemishe. Pole yako ulochelewa da, koda kakushusha chalize. Chalize, chalize, chalize. koda kakuchusha chalinze. Asante sana.
Asante, makofi kwake Bi Hadija Kopa.
Merci beaucoup. Zikomo kwa mbili.
Asante sana. Anasema mjini ukija na jembe utaishia kulima kwenye lami. Tunashukuru sana. Naomba sasa nimkaribishe baada ya kunyoosha viungo vyetu mratibu wa sehemu ya 3. Karibu uendelee. Atafanya kwa nusu saa na kisha tutakuwa na panel ya 4 na ya nguvu kabisa, ambapo watendaji wakuu wa mashirika ya mazingira, tukianza na mwenyeji wetu Dr. Immaculate na wenzake, watakuja kufanya michakato yao hapa. Kwa hiyo kwa sasa mjadala wa 3. Karibu.
Good afternoon to you all. Let me take this opportunity to welcome you to the 3rd session of our conference. And this session will have the total of 5 panels. And we are going to make it short as possible as we can. Dear ladies and gentlemen, as the Tanzania advances to the implementation of Vision 2050, we continue to face significant environmental challenges that affect public health, ecosystem, and sustainable economic development. To discuss all this, let me invite our panelists for today. The first panelist is Mr. Allen Kimambo, the CEO and founder of Zaid Recyclers Limited. Mr. Allen. Asante sana. Mr. Allen is a prominent East African entrepreneur and circular economy leader, specialist in waste management, climate technology, inclusive finance. He is a founder of and CEO of Zaid Recyclers Limited, Dar es Salaam. Our second panelist is Ms. Glory Kombe. Ms. Glory Kombe, she's Zonal Manager from National Environmental Management Council, NEMC. And she is going to be our keynote speaker. Our third panelist is Mr. Paul Kariuki, the Principal Environmental and Natural Resource Officer from Lake Victoria Basin Commission. Mr. Paul. And we have Dr. Matthias Igulu. Matthias Igulu is a director from International Union of Conservation of Nature, IUCN. And lastly, Ms. Helena Selas, Director of Waste Recycling, Tanzania. Karibu sana. Dear ladies and gentlemen, without wasting our time, I really need to welcome Ms. Glory Kombe, our keynote speaker, to give us a highlight of discussion. Glory, karibu. Una dakika zako 5 ya kutufungulia mada. Karibu sana.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for this opportunity. I've prepared my paper in Kiswahili so that I can capture the audience who deals with waste management, because I know they're in this room and they would like to know what is going on about waste management. Kwa kipindi kirefu uchumi wa dunia umetegemea sana rasilimali zinazopatikana kwenye mazingira katika kuzalisha bidhaa mbalimbali. Lakini kutokana na ukuaji wa teknolojia, uvunaji wa rasilimali umerahisishwa, hivyo kuongeza kasi ya kutumia rasilimali hizo. Ongezeko la watu duniani limekuwa kichocheo cha kuongeza uhitaji wa rasilimali, hivyo kuchochea uvunaji wa rasilimali. Kutokana na kasi ya maendeleo na ongezeko la watu, uharibifu wa mazingira umeongezeka, hivyo kuathiri upatikanaji wa rasilimali. Ubadilishaji wa malighafi kuwa bidhaa umesababisha uchafuzi wa mazingira. Athari kubwa ya uchafuzi wa mazingira ni mabadiliko ya tabia nchi, kama wengine walivyokwisha kusema kwenye theme zilizopita, yanayosababisha madhara mbalimbali katika mifumo ya ekolojia na kuathiri maendeleo endelevu. Uchumi mzunguko ni dhana inayozingatia kuleta uendelevu wa rasilimali ili kupunguza uvunaji wa rasilimali kwenye mazingira. Dhana ya uchumi mzunguko inazingatia kuwa dunia ni moja tu, na hivyo kutumia kwa uangalifu mkubwa rasilimali zopo kwa maendeleo endelevu. Dhana hii inazingatia kuwa bidhaa hata baada ya kutumika inaweza kuwa na thamani na kuruhusu kutumia tena kwa njia mbalimbali. Uchumi mzunguko ni muundo wa kiuchumi ambapo bidhaa au nyenzo zinatumiwa tena na tena, reuse, kukarabatiwa, refurbish, kuhuishwa, recover, kuchakatwa tena, recycle, ili kupunguza taka na uchafuzi wa mazingira. Kabla ya dhana ya uchumi mzunguko haijaanza, dhana iliyokuwepo ni chukua, tumia, tupa. Dhana hii ilisababisha matumizi makubwa ya rasilimali na kuongeza uzalishaji wa taka, hivyo kuharibu mazingira. Katika kipindi cha mpito kuelekea uchumi mzunguko, dhana hii imeendelea kuwa muhimu sana katika kutatua changamoto za kimazingira duniani. Changamoto hizo ni pamoja na uzalishaji wa taka, kupungua kwa rasilimali na uchafuzi wa mazingira. Uchumi mzunguko umewezesha matumizi mazuri ya maliasili kwa njia ya kupunguza matumizi, kutumia tena, kuchakata, kukarabati na kuhuisha bidhaa badala ya kutegemea utaratibu wa zamani wa chukua, tumia, tupa. Dhana ya uchumi mzunguko ni muhimu sana katika kulinda mazingira iwapo teknolojia rafiki kwa mazingira zitatumiwa katika kuchakata taka hizo na uwepo wa usimamizi wa taka zinazozalishwa au mabaki yanayotokana na uchakataji wa taka. Kwa mfano, viwanda vinavyochakata betri zilizotumika kwenye magari na mitambo vinasababisha uchafuzi wa hewa, maji na udongo kutokana na teknolojia duni zinazotumika ambazo sio rafiki kwa mazingira. Baadhi ya viwanda kutokuwa na mfumo wa kutibu maji taka yenye asidi, kutoa moshi wenye vumbi la madini ya risasi au lead, na kutupa ovyo mabaki yanayotokana na uyeyushaji wa madini ya risasi. Baadhi ya bidhaa zinazoingia nchini kutokuwa na maelezo au taarifa sahihi ya bidhaa husika, hasa viambata vyake, hivyo kusababisha uchafuzi wa mazingira kwa kukosa utaalamu sahihi au teknolojia sahihi ya kuweza kurejeleza. Tuna changamoto udhaifu katika ukusanyaji wa taka katika miji yetu. Bado jamii haina uelewa wa kutosha kuhusu taka, hivyo dhana ya chukua, tumia, tupa inaendelea. Utenganishaji wa taka kwenye chanzo ni hatua muhimu sana kwenye mfumo mzima wa uchumi mzunguko. Ukusanyaji bado ni hafifu, ambapo taka zinakusanywa kwa pamoja na kuchanganywa. Hii huongeza gharama za kiuendeshaji katika viwanda vya kurejeleza. Kwa mfano, viwanda vya kurejeleza bidhaa za plastiki hutumia maji mengi kusafisha, hivyo kuongeza gharama za kutibu maji taka. Uwekezaji katika biashara ya taka unategemea takwimu sahihi kuhusu aina ya taka na kiasi kilichopo nchini. Ukosefu wa takwimu hizi umepunguza kasi ya uwekezaji katika uchumi mzunguko, hivyo nchi kukosa fursa zilizopo katika taka. Kutokana na kuwa kwa teknolojia ya mawasiliano na miundombinu ya usafirishaji, biashara na bidhaa kati ya nchi na nchi imeimarika. Bidhaa zinasafirishwa mipakani ni pamoja na taka za aina mbalimbali. Kukua kwa biashara baina ya mataifa ni jambo zuri kiuchumi. Hata hivyo, kama miongozo ya kimataifa haitazingatiwa, inaweza kusababisha utupaji holela wa taka hatarishi, uvushaji wa taka hatarishi pasipo kuzingatia miongozo ya kisheria, uharibifu wa mazingira, hasa katika nchi zinazoendelea. Uchumi mzunguko unategemea usafirishaji wa bidhaa zinazoweza kutumika tena, taka zinaweza kurejelezwa na teknolojia rafiki kwa mazingira baina ya nchi. Iwapo biashara baina ya nchi inasimamiwa vema, itasaidia kuimarisha sekta ya urejelezaji, kukuza matumizi bora ya rasilimali, kuhamasisha uzalishaji na matumizi endelevu, kupunguza shinikizo kwenye rasilimali na kuwezesha ubunifu wa kijani na uwekezaji. Hata hivyo, usafirishaji wa taka na bidhaa usiposimamiwa vizuri utaweza kusababisha madhara makubwa kwa mazingira na afya ya jamii. Kwa mfano, usafirishaji wa taka za kielektroniki, kemikali hatarishi, taka za plastiki katika nchi zenye uwezo mdogo wa kusimamia aina hiyo ya taka. Zipo sheria, kanuni na miongozo na makubaliano ya kitaifa yenye lengo la kusimamia na kulinda mazingira. Kuimarisha uzingatiaji itawezekana iwapo tutaimarisha mifumo ya kisheria baina ya nchi. Nchi zinapaswa kuwa na sheria zinazoendana na makubaliano ya kimataifa, kwa mfano mikataba mbalimbali kama mkataba wa Basel, Bamako, Stockholm na mingine. Mamlaka za forodha, taasisi za mazingira na wasimamizi wa bandari wanapaswa kuimarisha mifumo ya ukaguzi, ufuatiliaji wa kidigitali na mifumo ya utoaji taarifa ili kubaini na kudhibiti ukiukwaji wa sheria. Mamlaka hizi zinapaswa kutunza takwimu za aina na kiasi cha taka au bidhaa zinazoingizwa nchini ili kutoa taarifa sahihi zitakazowezesha mamlaka za kutunga sheria kufahamu na kutunga sheria nzuri zaidi kwa ajili ya usimamizi. Wazalishaji wa bidhaa wanapaswa kuwajibika katika mzunguko mzima wa maisha ya bidhaa wanazozalisha kwa kuhakikisha wanatumia malighafi zinazoweza kutumika tena au kurejeleza, kuwekeza kwenye teknolojia za uchakataji wa taka hizo, kuwezesha mifumo ya ukusanyaji na hata utupaji wa taka ambazo hazitawezekana kurejelezwa. Nchi zinazoendelea zinahitaji utaalamu wa kiufundi, miundombinu na teknolojia ili kuwezesha urejelezaji wa bidhaa za kawaida na zile ambazo ni hatarishi kwa usalama na kwa njia endelevu. Kwa mfano, viwanda vingi nchini huchakata plastiki kwa hatua ya awali tu na kusafirisha nje ya nchi ambako kuna teknolojia kubwa zaidi ya kukamilisha urejelezaji. Lakini kwa mfano, teknolojia hiyo ingeweza kuletwa nchini, basi ingeweza kutusaidia kutoa nafasi za ajira zaidi na hivyo nchi yetu kuweza kunufaika zaidi. Wafanyabiashara, watumiaji bidhaa, mashirika ya kiraia na ya kijamii wanapaswa kushirikishwa kikamilifu katika kuimarisha matumizi endelevu na ulinzi wa mazingira. Utawala bora wa mazingira unahitaji ushirikiano kati ya serikali, mashirika ya kimataifa, sekta binafsi na jamii. Utawala bora katika biashara za mipakani unaweza kuhusisha uwazi na uwajibikaji, uratibu madhubuti wa kitaasisi, ushirikiano baina ya nchi katika mipaka, ushirikishanaji wa takwimu na kubadilishana taarifa, kupambana na rushwa na sera endelevu za kibiashara. Jumuiya za uchumi za kikanda zinapaswa kwa pamoja kutekeleza mikataba ya kimataifa na kuhakikisha sheria zinazosimamia taka katika nchi zao zinaoana katika viwango vya kimazingira ili kurahisisha uzingatiaji na utekelezaji. Kwa mfano, nchi yetu ilipopiga marufuku matumizi ya mifuko ya plastiki, sheria yetu ilipiga marufuku kusafirisha nchi ya nchi, lakini pia na kuingiza. Lakini kuna nchi majirani ambao wao walipiga marufuku kuzalisha na kutumia ndani ya nchi, lakini wakaruhusu kusafirisha. Hivyo unakuta kwamba zile plastiki sasa badala ya kutumika kwenye nchi ile zinakuta kwamba zinasafirishwa na zinaingia kwenye nchi ambazo pengine usimamizi wa plastiki bado haujaimarishwa. Uchumi mzunguko unategemea uelewa wa jamii na utayari wa kubadilika na kutambua fursa zilizopo katika taka. Usimamizi wa taka kuanzia pale ambapo zinapozalishwa utaongeza ufanisi katika hatua zote za usimamizi wa taka. Uwekezaji katika teknolojia rafiki kwa mazingira utasaidia kulinda afya ya binadamu, hasa wenzetu wale ambao wako katika viwanda ambavyo vinachakata taka mbalimbali, lakini pia wale ambao wanajihusisha, kama tulivyosema hapa, yapo makundi mbalimbali ambayo yanajihusisha na uokotaji wa taka hizo, lakini usafirishaji na hata kwenda kuzichakata. Sasa afya zao zitaweza kulindwa pale ambapo tutatenganisha taka katika chanzo ili kuepusha zile taka hatarishi kuchanganyika ambazo sio hatarishi. Uwekezaji katika taka unategemea uwepo wa takwimu sahihi kuhusu aina na kiasi cha taka kinachozalishwa. Ili kuvutia uwekezaji nchini, hasa katika taka au katika uchumi mzunguko, circular economy, ni lazima taasisi za serikali kushirikiana na kuwa na mfumo inayosomana na kuimarisha utunzaji wa takwimu. Naomba nijumuishe sasa kwamba ujumuishaji wa misingi ya uchumi mzunguko kwenye mifumo ya biashara ya kimataifa kutaongeza fursa katika maendeleo endelevu. Aidha, kufanikisha manufaa haya kunahitaji mfumo imara ya uzingatiaji wa sheria za mazingira, utawala bora, ili kudhibiti usafirishaji wa bidhaa kuvuka mipaka. Kwa kuimarisha mifumo ya kisheria na uwajibikaji, ushirikiano wa kimataifa, uwepo wa mbinu endelevu za kibiashara nchini zinaweza kukuza uchumi huku zilikilinda afya ya binadamu na mazingira. Nawashukuru sana, asante.
Thank you very much, Ms. Glory Kombe. And dear ladies and gentlemen, we have now only 4 panelists making very good in terms of time management for our theme. We have a very good discussion now from Glory Kombe. And we had this guiding question to you panelists, starting with Mr. Allen. How can circular economy approaches be utilized as an opportunity to stimulate green growth, creating employment opportunities for young people, promoting sustainable industries, and improve resources efficiency while reducing the pressure on the ecosystem? Karibu sana Allen, and you have at least maximum of 2 minutes. Karibu.
Asante sana. Kwanza niwapongeze NEMC kwa miaka 40. Hongereni sana. So circular economy na Kiswahili chake napenda kutumia uchumi rejeshi, tayari inatokea Tanzania, tayari vijana wanafaidika nao. Kwa mfano ukiangalia wengi hapa watakuwa wamekuja na Bolt. Bolt ni moja kati ya huduma inatokana na uchumi rejeshi au circular economy. Maana yake umekataa kuwa na gari, basi utatumia gari ya Bolt. Lakini pia ukizunguka kwenye mitaa ya Kariakoo au Msasani au ukienda Dodoma, maeneo mengi, utaona kuna refill stations za maji, ambapo mtu tu anaenda na hela yake na chombo chake cha maji kutoka nyumbani, anaenda na kinga maji. Hana haja kununua maji ya chupa. Huo ni uchumi rejeshi, circular economy. Manake umekataa kununua chupa ya maji ya chupa, umeenda kuchota kwenye refill station. Lakini ukija kwenye recycling sasa, ambapo kwenye mitaa yetu, kwenye maeneo ya biashara, utaona waokota taka ambao kwa lugha nyingine tunaita ni resource recovery, wanakusanya taka kama malighafi kwa ajili ya viwanda, na pale wanapata kipato. Kwa hiyo uchumi rejeshi kwa maana ya the areas ambazo the reuse, the refuse, the recycling inafanyika. Sasa opportunities ziko wapi ili vijana waweze kupata hizi fursa zaidi? Opportunity namba 1 ni namna gani tunatengeneza framework au tunasema guideline ambayo inaweza kupropel au accelerate reuse and repair economy, kwamba hiki kinachofanyika sasa hivi kuna framework gani, kuna guidance gani, kuna standard gani pia ya TBS ambayo inasaidia uchumi huu ambao tunaofanya usije ukazalisha tena takataka. Kwa kama refill stations zisikae kwa muda mrefu, zitumike tena na tena, au bidhaa inayokuja kama vile ambavyo tunasema light as a service, kwamba mwanga unauzwa kama huduma, sio mwanga unauzwa kama kifaa. Namna gani vile vifaa vinakidhi viwango ili viweze kutumika tena na tena. Namba 2 ni kwenye eneo ni kwenye fursa ya circular financing na design for recycling. Vijana hawa tayari wako kwenye mnyororo huu wa thamani au uchumi rejeshi. Lakini sasa ni namna gani unawapatia innovative financing? Sio uwe na gari au uwe na nyumba ndio upate mkopo. Ni namna gani kupitia uchumi huu rejeshi, data ambazo wanazizalisha, wanazitengeneza kupitia kuokota, kuuza na kuchakata taka, zinaweza vipi kutengeneza financing ambayo ni tofauti na traditional financing. Kwa hapa ndipo ambako tunaangalia mabenki namna gani wanaweza kuleta financing na namna hii. Lakini pia design for recycling, hatuna standard ambayo inahusiana na design for recycling, na ni eneo ambalo tukiweka vizuri ina maana itapromote the recycling economy au the circular economy, kwa sababu bidhaa nyingi au chupa unayoshika hapo itakuwa inarejeleshwa tena na tena na bei yake itakuwa kubwa, kwa hiyo vijana wengi watapata kipato. Eneo la 3 ni NEMA. Sasa tunahitaji NEMA, maana tunaelekea huko. Tunaenda zaidi ya compliance na enforcement. Namna gani NEMA au NEMC ina promote the opportunities ambazo zipo within the circular economy. Amezungumza hapa keynote speakers, amesema ukichakata betri tunamwaga asidi. Ile asidi mpaka sasa hivi hamna solution, na tunafahamu sisi kama NEMC, tunafahamu sisi kama NEMA ni namna gani sasa tuna call in investors. Tunashirikiana na trade or Ministry of Trade and Investment kwa ajili ya call in investors, sio tu enforcement, sio tu compliance, beyond that. Lastly, huwezi kufanikiwa kwenye uchumi rejeshi bila kuwahusisha the local government, the TAMISEMI. Local government kwa namna ilivyo sasa, taka mahali pake ni dampo kwa haraka. Isipoonekana dampo, ikaonekana mtaani ajenda dampo, hilo ni kosa. Manake nini? The local government wanapo plan, the master plan, lazima tu plani maeneo kwa ajili ya kusupport the resource economy, kusupport uchumi rejeshi. Utaenda maeneo mengi hakuna maeneo yametengwa kwa ajili ya vijana kuweza kurecycle zile takataka au kwa ajili ya kuzihifadhi zile takataka. Hii ni opportunity kwa the local government kuanza designate maeneo, sio tu kama vizimba vya kuwekea garbage, vizimba vya kuchakata taka. Similarly, tunapoenda kutengeneza madampo, mostly landfill, tusifikiri tena kutengeneza landfill au dump site, tutengeneze recycling zones. Yaani ile eneo lote ambalo tumelidesignate kwa ajili ya kuweka dampo, lile eneo liwe ndio sehemu ya kuweka viwanda vya kuchakata taka kwenye miji na majiji yetu. Tukifanya hivyo, mindset yetu itahama na uchumi rejeshi, the circular economy, itaanza kukua. Nashukuru.
Asante sana Kimambo kwa very good insight on that. Now here we get that the circular economy is truly present the strong opportunity for the youth employment and the sustainable development. That's what we got from Alain. Now let's go to Dr. Matthias. As Tanzania moves towards Vision 2050, Dr. Matthias, how can environmental governance institutions and the private sector, regional bodies, and communities strengthen collaboration in order to promote sustainable trade and ensure the safe transition toward the circular economy? Karibu sana, Dr. Matthias.
Asante, nafikiri sauti yangu inasikika. Asante, moderator. First of all, allow me to extend our warm congratulations to NEMC for the remarkable 40 years. It's quite a milestone, and we wish you all the best in the next 40 years. So IUCN is here as your partner and wants to work with you in the next 40 years. Asante sana. To answer your question, and for the interest of time, I think I want to be able to cover it all, but just say what IUCN is doing. IUCN being conservation organizations inafanya kazi na almost all levels, from the communities to the national government, and of course also at international levels. So tukifanya kazi kwa pamoja katika ngazi tofauti tofauti, nafikiri yote yanawezekana. Amesema hapa kakangu mambo mazuri. We see circular economy as an opportunities. Inaweza kaajiri watu wengi, na sisi sasa hivi tunao mradi pia ambao una support the blue economy. So part of it is on the recycling. So we're working together with the communities, recyclers, producers na watu mbalimbali kuhakikisha kwamba wote tuna address issue ya environmental pollution when it comes to plastics that goes into the oceans. Well, I'm not sure if I'm really answering many of your questions, but I think in short it is possible tukifanya kazi kwa pamoja na kila mmoja akaelewa positions and responsibilities, then inawezekana. Asante sana.
Asante sana Dr. Matias kwa kazi nzuri. Tunajua IUCN ndio mnayetupa zile categories za uhifadhi and conservation of biodiversity na vitu vinavyofanana na hapo. Shukrani sana sana sana. Amezungumza kimambo mwanzoni, taka ni fursa. Sasa niende kwako ndugu yangu Patrick, Paul. How effective are our current environmental governance systems, both legal and institution at the national and the regional level, in regulating this transportation of goods, particularly hazardous waste, recyclable materials, in order to prevent environmental leakage across the borders? Karibu.
Asante mwezeshaji. Nijitambulishe tena, naona umeniita Patrick, kwa jina ni Paul Kariuki. Nafanya na Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki, haswa kamishoni ya bonde la Ziwa Victoria ambayo ni ya kikanda. Nichukue fursa hii kwanza kuwapa hongera zangu na kwa niaba yangu na Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki na vile vile kamishoni ya bonde la Ziwa Victoria, niwape hongera NEMC kwa miaka 40 ya kulinda na kutunza mazingira. Kazi yenu ni nzuri, inaonekana kwa vile tunavyotembea ndani ya miji na mashambani. Tanzania inang'aa, so inaonyesha kwamba kazi zenu zinaonekana na zinaweza kuchangia katika maendeleo endelevu ya nchi. So nichukue fursa hii tena ni address swali lako in terms of how effective our regional and national institutions as well as legal frameworks are. I think we have over the years put in place very good legal instrument, policy, standards, regulations, as well as institutions at both national and regional level. However, in my view, I see the biggest gap being implementation. We have good laws, we have good policies, we have put in place institutions, but when it comes to implementing and enforcing those rules that are either national or some have been harmonized at regional level, you find that's where the missing gap is. And so it's a big wake-up call for us to ensure that as we make movement of goods regional within the community, EAC-wide, as well as within the country, we also have to in tandem grow our rules and regulation and enhance and tighten our enforcement. We have to ensure that our revenue agencies, our customs agencies, our environmental compliance agencies like NEMC work together in tandem, and they have a platform where they are able to share data, they are able to work together, that we mainstream issues of environmental compliance into the existing regional and national trade architecture. This is very critical if we are to make progress in terms of ensuring that we don't get contraband goods that are restricted, like those that have high traces of heavy metals, goods that are heavy on PFAS and persistent organic pollutants. So those things we have to harmonize as a region our standards. There are still some loopholes. Some standards we have harmonized, some we are yet to do that, particularly with regard to issues to do with e-waste, plastic commodities like the keynote speaker mentioned. So these are the areas that as a region, as a country, as member countries of the community, we have to continue working together. And of course we need to also strengthen our regional institutions to have more teeth to bite, to have more elements that can help and support countries in the enforcement, particularly at our ports of entry. Those are border posts, those are ports, and all those regional trade corridors, from the northern corridor to the southern corridor. All these are areas where we need to tighten our enforcement and ensure that we see loopholes that can help bring, in terms of waste dumping into the region and all the member countries. I beg to stop there, Mr. Facilitator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paul. And what we get here is that the regional collaboration or cooperation remains a critical pillar in addressing this challenge of cross-border. Asante sana, Mr. Paul. Labda nije kwako Glory Kombe. Ukiangalia uhalisia, Glory, wa sasa wa ukuaji wa miji hapa nchini Tanzania na ukanda huu, ni zipi changamoto kuu za uchafuzi wa mazingira na udhibiti wa taka zinazotokana na usafirishaji wa bidhaa za taka hizi mipakani? Karibu.
Nashukuru sana moderator kwa kunipa tena nafasi. Changamoto kuu za usimamizi za uchafuzi wa mazingira zinatokana hasa na suala la usimamizi wa taka. Bado elimu ya usimamizi wa taka kuanzia ngazi ya familia bado haujakita mizizi. Ukichanganya na ukuaji wa miji yetu pamoja na kutokuwa na mipango thabiti ya maeneo ya kuhifadhi taka, kama alivyosema Mr. Allen kwamba katika mipango yetu tulipaswa kufikiria pia kutenga maeneo ambayo vijana wangeweza kufanya kazi ya kuchambua taka badala ya taka zote kwenda kwenye madampo. Maeneo hayo hayakutengwa. Matokeo yake ni kwamba hata pale ambapo vijana wanajitokeza kama kikundi kwa ajili ya kuanza hatua ya mwanzo ya kuchakata zile taka, wanashindwa kupata hayo maeneo, na wanapojaribu pengine kuianzisha kwenye makazi inakuwa tena ni kero kwa wakazi wa eneo lile. Kwa hiyo bado tuna hiyo changamoto kwamba hatujaweka miundombinu sahihi ya kuweza kusimamia taka tunazozizalisha. Lakini pia hii inachangiwa pia na kutokuwa na teknolojia rafiki ya uchakataji wa taka. Kama nilivyosema awali kwamba taka zinazokusanywa kwa ajili ya uchakataji, labda urejelezaji, bado zinaishia kwenye teknolojia ambazo ni dhaifu, ambazo zinaenda tena kuchafua tena mazingira. Kwa hiyo unakuta taka inabadilishwa katika mfumo uliokuwepo mwanzo, inaenda tena kwenye mfumo mwingine ambao pia unachafua mazingira. Kwa hiyo bado tunahitaji sana kuwekeza katika teknolojia rafiki kwa mazingira, lakini kuhakikisha pia mifumo yetu ya ukusanyaji wa taka tunaiweka vizuri ili iweze kuvutia uwekezaji mkubwa. Ni vigumu sana mwekezaji akaja nchini kuwekeza kwenye urejelezaji wakati sisi wenyewe hatuna takwimu sahihi za aina ya taka na kiasi ambacho tunakizalisha. Anapokuja angekuta hizo takwimu zingeweza kumvutia kujua aina gani ya uwekezaji anakuja kufanya. Sasa wengi wanaokuja wanakuja wanabahatisha, na pengine katika kubahatisha huko wengine wanakwama na wengine pengine hawawekezi kile ambacho tulikusudia kwamba wawekeze ili waweze kututoa katika hii changamoto ambayo tunayo. Nashukuru.
Asante sana Glory, na kwa kazi amena kwa discussion yako nzuri, na ni kweli kwamba kwa kweli takwimu zimekuwa ni shida, na hususan kwenye eneo la taka na uzalishaji wa taka, na hususan kwenye maeneo ya miji yetu mikubwa kama Dar es Salaam, Mwanza, Arusha Mbeya, Dodoma, Tanga. Takwimu zingine zinasema milioni 14.4 kila mwaka za taka zinazalishwa, na 50%, zaidi ya 50% inatokana kwenye miji mikubwa. Then this marks end of first round for the discussion, and thank you very much to all our panelists for the insightful contribution to these 4 major questions that we raised. We will now open the floor for our participants for few questions, clarifications, and comments. Please, karibuni sana. Go straight to the point. Make it very, very short.
Asante, nashukuru kupata nafasi. Kwa majina naitwa Engineer Amasha Kiando, Chemical Process Engineer, lakini ni CEO wa organization ya Maski Petrochemical Tanzania inayohusiana na kubadilisha takataka za plastiki kuwa nishati safi ya kupikia ya gesi pamoja na mafuta ya diesel. Sasa nimepata nafasi ya kuuliza maswali matatu. Swali langu la kwanza, ni kweli vijana wapo na wanaweza kutoa suluhisho la changamoto ambayo nchi kwa sasa inapitia, lakini serikali kupitia Baraza la NEMC pamoja na taasisi zingine zinaamini vipi vijana hao na kuwawezesha program zao ziweze kuleta matunda kwa taifa? Kwa mfano, sisi programu yetu imeshafanywa recognition na UN, United Nation, na ipo kwenye digital platforms zote za UN. Ukiingia YouTube unaweza ukapata mahojiano tuliyoyafanya kuhusu namna tulivyobadilisha taka za plastiki kuwa nishati safi ya kupikia ya gesi, na kesho tutakuja na mtungi ambao tumerefill gesi inayotokana na taka za plastics na jinsi tunavyoitumia. Sasa maswali yangu mawili ni kwamba tumisha NEMC kama taasisi inayohusiana na swala usimamizi wa mazingira imetengeneza mfumo gani wa kuweza kulea innovative ideas za mazingira zinazoweza kusaidia shughuli wanazozifanya wao wenyewe? Kwa mfano, ukienda Costec wao wana kitu kinaitwa Innovation Hub. Wao Costec wanachukua innovators wote bila kujali ni wa mazingira au sio wa mazingira. Vipi NEMC ambao wao wanadili na mazingira wametengeneza mfumo gani wao wa kuchukua innovators wanaoweza kutengeneza mifumo ya kusaidia NEMC kufanya kazi zake kupitia mazingira? Swali langu la pili, organization yetu pia imegawanyika eneo la pili ambalo linahusiana na masuala ya data. Tumeona data inazungumzwa. Tumeandaa mfumo unaitwa Smart Bin, ni bin maalum la kidijitali ambalo lina uwezo wa kusegregate taka, kwanza kumtambua aliyetupa taka kwa kutumia fingerprint, lakini pia kutambua uzito wa hiyo plastiki iliyotupwa mle, aina hiyo plastiki pamoja na muda iliyotupwa, kitu ambacho kitaisaidia NEMC kufanya kazi zake vizuri, lakini pia itachochea swala la wawekezaji. Kama alivyosema, plastiki, tafiti zinaonesha plastiki aina ya polypropylene, polyethylene zinaweza kutoa kiwango kikubwa cha mafuta ya diesel na wawekezaji wapo. Lakini leo inaweza ikawa ni changamoto tukiwauliza NEMC watupe data ya kiwango cha plastiki kilichokusanywa miezi miwili iliyopita, hasa kiwango cha plastiki za polyethylene, polypropylene na high density polyethylene. Inaweza ikawa ni changamoto. Kwa hiyo naomba kuwasilisha hayo ni maswali yangu ambayo nimewasilisha. Vijana tuna majibu ya changamoto zinazokabili taifa, tunaomba mtuamini.
Asante sana na fursa kuaminiwa umeshaipata. Naomba wenzetu wa NEMC wengine, majibu mengine hayataweza kutoka kwenye panel, yatatoka kwetu sisi wenyewe NEMC. Kwa hiyo tujitahidi huko. Mkono wa mwisho.
Thank you very much. I'm called Baraka Elingogo, a senior certified and registered expert in environmental impact assessment. I have some few questions and some comments to make. Kwanza, na mimi pia naungana katika kuwapongeza NEMC katika kusherehekea hii siku muhimu ya kutimiza miaka 40 ya utendaji wao kazi. Hongereni sana. Moja, nilikuwa naomba katika utekelezaji wa environmental mainstreaming tuanze kuwa na wazo la kuwa na full-fledged ministry. Sasa hivi tuna Wizara ya Mazingira ambayo iko chini ya ofisi ya makamu wa rais. Tunaomba tutakapokutana tena miaka 40 ijayo tuwe na wizara iliyo kamili, Wizara ya Mazingira inayojitegemea, ili kupunguza kiasi fulani cha bureaucracy ambapo baadhi ya maamuzi yanaweza kuwa affected na uwepo wa hizo ofisi. Hilo la kwanza. La pili, katika principles za environmental conservation, mojawapo ni polluter pay principle. Tunapoongelea habari ya recycling, tumejikita kidogo zaidi katika upande wa plastiki, lakini waste ziko za aina nyingi, na mimi ningependa kidogo niongelee kuhusu scrap metals ambazo pia ni aina ya taka na zinahitaji kufanyiwa recycling. Principle inatutaka kuwalipisha wale wanaochafua, kwa maana kwamba wanaotupa hizo takataka. Lakini kuna vijana ambao wanajitolea au wamewekeza katika kukusanya uchafuo ambao ni scrap metals. Sasa badala ya serikali kuwaunga mkono kwa kuwapa incentives mbalimbali, kinyume chake imekuwa ikiwatoza tozo mbalimbali kama vile ada ya kuwa na vibali vya kufanya collection, transportation, storage na kadhalika. Swali kwa panelist Madam Glory Kombe, hamuoni kama mnaenda kinyume na principle ya environmental conservation ya polluter pay principle? Nyinyi mnakwenda kwenye collector, transporter and storage pay principle. Why should the collector pay zaidi ya shilingi 500 kwa mwaka, wakati tulitegemea kwamba NEMC au serikali iweke incentives za kuhakikisha kwamba wale ambao wamewekeza kwenye ukusanyaji wa vyuma chakavu wanapata incentives? Ombi langu, naomba serikali, naomba NEMC ifute mara moja kodi zote ambazo au fee zote ambazo wanatozwa wawekezaji wanaokusanya vyuma chakavu, kwa sababu hawa wanatusaidia kuondoa taka mtaani. Hawa wanaoondoa chupa za plastiki hatuwatozi permit fee, lakini hawa chuma chakavu tunawatoza fee kubwa. Hii ni changamoto. La tatu na la mwisho, katika ukusanyaji wa chupa plastics, kuna baadhi ya miji, baadhi ya wilaya hususan ambazo ziko pembezoni mwa nchi hazina effective means ya kukusanya hizo taka, kwa sababu gharama za kuzikusanya na kuzisafirisha na kuziuza ni kubwa sana kuliko kipato ambacho wanapata hawa wanaokusanya taka. Na hii nilikuwa nategemea Mr. Kimambo ungeliongelea, kwa sababu nilipata kusikia kwamba halmashauri ya Chunya hakuna ukusanyaji taka hizi plastiki. Nilisafiri mpaka kule kwenda kuona kwa nini hazikusanywi na hali ikoje. Cha kusikitisha ni kwamba chupa nyingi zinazagaa mtaani. Nilipojaribu kufanya tafiti zangu, ilionyesha kwamba gharama za kukusanya hizi chupa mitaani na kuzisafirisha ni kubwa kuliko kipato ambacho wanakipata. Hali kadhalika nilienda katika mji wa Mlimba, the same situation. Lakini pia tuangalie namna bora zaidi ya ukusanyaji wa hizi chupa. Tumewaachia mateja kwa kiasi kikubwa, na huu ndio kweli wenyewe. Tutafika? Hakuna namna nyingine kweli ya kuweka incentives badala ya mateja pekee yao ambao ndio wanakusanya hizo taka mitaani na kuja kuzipeleka katika recycling units? Nashukuru sana, asante sana.
Asante sana kwa maswali yako mazuri. Naomba niseme tu jambo moja, kwamba pamoja na session yetu kwa fupi, niwaombe sana wadau wetu, tunawavalue, tunawathamini. Bado tupo leo na kesho, tunaita Catascol, tutakutana hapa, tunajadiliana moja kwa moja na tutapeana majibu ya moja kwa moja, one to one, nje kokote pale. Tuko tayari NEMC kwa ajili ya kutoa clarification kule nje kokote pale ambapo unaona tupo pamoja na mimi. Asanteni sana. Now back to the panelists. Maybe let me start with Dr. Matthias Igulu, our director from ICN. If you have anything, please.
Asante moderator. Just to reflect kwa kijana, amesema vijana wapo. ICN ilizunguka kuangalia vijana ambao wanafanya kazi kwenye mdororo mzima wa plastics, lakini inawezekana tulipishana nao kwa Kiswahili cha mjini, tuliowapata ni wachache, and as a result tukatoa support kwa almost 15 to 20 plastic ventures kwa resource tulizokuwa nazo. Lakini nataka kusema nini? Ni vizuri pia kwa vijana wasikae kusubiri fursa. Inawezekana kabisa ukatoka ukaitafuta fursa na ukaipata. So the opportunities are there. Tumesema plastic ni opportunities, the business itself. Asa mtu kama ukiona biashara au subiri mteja, sometimes inabidi uangalie kule ambako utapata soko. Kwa the message is vijana wasikae, watoke, wascale around kuangalia fursa ziko wapi na unaweza kusaidika. Kwa hiyo tusikae tu kusema kwamba haiwezekani. It is possible. Asante.
Asante sana Dr. Matthias kwa comment yako nzuri. Naomba vijana tuendelee kuchukua fursa. ICN wako hapa vile vile. Nije kwako ndugu yangu Paul Kariuki. Based on the cross border issue, any comment that you have to comment, and what these people they are talking about in terms of questions and what?
Yeah, indeed, I think trying to respond to the question that was asked at the back, I think incentives are very critical. Incentivizing recyclers is very important. It's the only way that we can get as many youth, as many people working and partnering with public entities to manage the challenge we have in regard to waste, particularly solid waste and plastic, like it has been mentioned. So this is very critical, and I think at the regional level, EAC-wide, we are trying to look at what are the opportunities for incentivizing such initiatives and how can member countries work together. We have seen successes in other countries, and I believe we can also replicate such similar successes here, where incentives work and pull youth groups and private sector to be involved in more of these schemes. So it's very critical. And I'll also join my brother in terms of encouraging the youth, in terms of looking at the whole waste and sanitation value chain. There are a lot of opportunities that can be seized in terms of transforming waste into a resource and making an income out of it. So my encouragement is also to ensure that we are on the lookout for the opportunities across the entire waste value chains, and also encourage our public institutions to look at how then can we attract their participation. How can we adjust our stringent laws to bring them on board to ensure that they play a part in addressing the challenges that our communities, our towns, our inner cities face with regard to pollution. So I want to take it at that, facilitator. Thank you.
Asante sana, Mr. Paul. Ndugu yangu Kimambo, unaweza ukasema kwa ufupi sana, at least chini ya dakika moja.
Yeah, nashukuru. Kwanza recycling, kwanza bila waste pickers ni garbage, wala wanaokota taka kwa sasa hivi. Bila wao hakuna recycling. Namba 2, recycling bila reliable market haifanyi kazi, haiwezekani. Na reliable market ina vigezo vingi, namna gani pia packaging imeandaliwa. Na ukiangalia recycling sana sana iko centered kwenye miji mikubwa au majiji. Anakozungumzia ndugu yangu mfano Chunya, huwezi kukuta sana plastiki na kusanya for recycling. Kwa nini? Kwa sababu ya gharama za kukusanya na kusafirisha Dar es Salaam. So nini kinatokea sasa hivi? Kwa sababu miji yetu inakuwa, unaona baadhi ya makampuni wawekezaji wanaenda kuweka mitambo kule kwenye ile miji. Manake nini? Pale mwanzo nilisema miji hizi halmashauri zetu zinapaswa zivutie wawekezaji. Yaani uandae mazingira ya mtu kuja kuwekeza. Kinyume na hapo itabaki tu ni story ambayo inaendelea. Jambo lingine sasa hivi ukiangalia yanayotokea Philippines, yanayotokea Indonesia, ambako wana mifumo kama ya kukusanya taka kwenye community. Yaani taka inahifadhiwa nyumbani kama currency, kama pesa. Alafu inapelekwa kwenye vituo vya benki, nasema West Bank au taka benki. Ndio mfumo ambao sasa hivi unaanza kukua. Kwa nini? Kwa sababu maeneo yetu kipato ndio kinakuwa, kwa hiyo taka nayo inakuwa kama moja ya kipato. Kwa hiyo ukienda kwa mfano Tanga sasa hivi, bahati nzuri walitoa maeneo katika kata zao kwa ajili ya set up taka benki. Kuna modo kule ya taka benki ambayo wanawake ndio wanasimamia taka benki, na jamii inaleta sio tu waste pickers, mpaka watu kutoka nyumbani wanaleta. Kuna modo ya zero waste ambayo ni Fagiwa anaendesha Bonyokwa, jamii nayo inaleta waste katika ile maeneo. Kwa hiyo maana yake nini? Tukitengeneza infrastructure anazungumza madam, muundombinu sahihi mzuri, maana yake financing inakuja, lakini pia wawekezaji wanakuja. Shukrani.
Asante sana.
Ya mwisho, sio mateja tu. Hapana, ile ni wanaoleta taka kwenye vituo ni waokota taka, lakini pia kuna watu kutoka nyumbani. Kwa hiyo sio biashara ya mateja, hapana. Na hilo neno la mateja inabidi tuliweke pembeni. Kwa sababu
asante sana kwa hiyo clarification, na naomba jamani tutumie watataka sio mateja. Sawa jamani? Aya, Glory kwa dakika moja please. Tuko nyuma ya muda.
Asante sana. Mimi nitazungumzia jambo moja ambalo Baraka Ngogo ameliibua. Swala la polluter pays principle. Lakini katika masuala haya ya circular economy kuna kipengele cha muhimu sana ambacho tunasema ni producer extended responsibility, pale ambapo mzalisha bidhaa anatakiwa afuatilie kile alichokizalisha kwa maisha mazima ya kile alichokizalisha. Na nchi yetu tuko kwenye mchakato wa kutengeneza kanuni ambayo itaenda kusimamia swala hili la producer extended responsibility. And I hope kama tukishakuwa na kanuni, basi itakuwa rahisi sisi kufanya enforcement ya hii kanuni, kuhakikisha kwamba wazalishaji wa bidhaa basi wanakuwa wanawajibika kuanzia uzalishaji wa bidhaa mpaka mwisho wa maisha wa bidhaa wanaizalisha. Asante sana.
Asante sana bibi na bwana, tunawashukuru sana, na hapa ndiko tunafika kwenye mwisho wa mada yetu ya 3. Tunashukuru sana sana, na kiukweli taka ni fursa. Muondoke na slogan hiyo. Asanteni sana.
Asante sana. Wakiwa wanapiga picha pamoja, naomba nitoe matangazo mawili. Tangazo la kwanza, naomba tukumbuke kesho kuja na vitambulisho vyetu tulivyovivaa leo. Tukumbuke, please remember to carry your name tag tomorrow morning. It's the same one you're going to use tomorrow morning, so please come with it. Namba 2, kuna kitambulisho kimeokotwa cha ndugu Justin Chankan Lawrence, kitambulisho cha Taifa. Naomba kama uko hapa au kama unamfahamu aje kukichukua kwangu. Na 3, wote tunafahamu kesho tuko na Mheshimiwa Makamu wa Rais. Ratiba itakuwa ngumu sana kwa sababu ana safari. Kwa hiyo ninawakumbusha tena, tunaweka chai asubuhi ili tuweze kuwahi. Chai inaanza saa 12:30, saa 2:30 wote tunatakiwa tuwe tumekaa, kwa sababu ataingia hapa ukumbini saa 3 kamili. Kwa hiyo niombe tuzingatie hayo. Matangazo mengine nitayatoa baada ya session ya wakuu wa taasisi, lakini kwa sasa nimlete mratibu wao ambaye ni Balozi Profesa Kennedy Gaston. Karibu sana, una nusu saa tu ya kutupeleka katika session hii ya mwisho ili tuweze kuhitimisha siku ya leo. Wakati balozi anakuja, naomba tumkaribishe kwa kumpigia makofi. Karibu balozi.
Tunza mazingira, linda Tanzania.
Thank you, moderator. Distinguished colleagues, I think all protocols allow me to associate myself with the proceedings and all protocols by inviting to the podium our distinguished panelists, Dr. Malmo Mamo. Dr. Malmo Mamo is he is a Director General of NEMA from the Republic of Kenya. The next panelist is Dr. Akanakwash, Director General from NEMA Uganda. Karibu. The next on my list is Professor Barikori, who is Director General Nesrea from Nigeria. Again, in no particular order, Dr. Kadewa, Director General from the Republic of Malawi. Dr. Mohammed Al-Madfai from the UAE. Karibu. He's not here, Executive Director, but will shortly join us. And then one of our own, Dr. Immaculate Semesi, our DG of NEMC. Dr. Mohammed Yusuf is not. Good. Now, colleagues, this is a serious panelist. This serious session, so to speak, because now we have a distinguished heads of environmental authorities from in no particular order, Republic of Kenya, Republic of Uganda, United Republic of Tanzania, and then the Federal Republic of Nigeria, but also, did I miss someone else? Ah, okay, you're all there. Oh, Malawi, from the Republic of Malawi. Now, the session is going to handle a theme, namely advancing regional and global environment governance, strategic role of environmental authorities. You will agree with me that being also the last session for today, and also being a session where you have really the decision makers, so to speak, within the national environmental authorities, and I'm trying to use the word national authorities, environmental authorities, understanding that also NEMC is still a council, but is also authority. So we use it generically. We use the term generically. Now, allow me, therefore, to invite a keynote speaker, Dr. Immaculate Swale Semesi, our Director General of NEMC Tanzania.
Thank you, moderator, Professor Kennedy, distinguished panelists, dear participants, and my fellow colleagues from NEMC. I'll start by formally greeting you with the NEMC slogan, which means our environment, our life. Mazingira yetu? Asante. It is an honor to join this important panel on advancing regional and global environmental governance and the strategic role of environmental authorities. Here with my fellow brothers and sisters within the region. If I were good at kupiga kigelegele, I would have done so. So, dear ladies from NEMC, let us do the honor. We have heavyweights with us, traveled thousands of miles, with some hiccups on flights. DG from Ghana, she arrived at 2 p.m. this afternoon. And there's a 5 hours time difference between us, but she's still here. Thank you so much. Kigelegele is praising or celebrating, and we are celebrating you. Thank you. This theme is timely and compelling as environmental challenges such as climate change, biodiversity loss, pollution, land degradation, and ecosystem decline are increasingly becoming interconnected, cumulative, and transboundary in nature. They can no longer be addressed through fragmented national actions, but as collaborative partners in different countries in our region. These risks are already reshaping food security, water availability, public health systems, infrastructure resilience, and economic stability. This reality demands stronger institutions, deeper coordination, and more coherent governance systems at both regional and at the global levels. Distinguished participants, fellow panelists, environmental authorities today occupy a strategic governance space that goes far beyond compliance and enforcement. They are central actors in policy coherence across sectors, environmental regulation and accountability, scientific and technical advisory functions, coordination of multilateral environmental agreements, and increasingly environmental diplomacy and regional cooperation. Against this background, allow me to highlight 5 priorities for our reflection. And for the sake of time, I'm seeing a lot of us, the sugar levels are going down. There are 5 main points that I would like to highlight. One is repositioning environmental authorities as strategic institutions. 2, strengthening regional environmental governance. 3, closing implementation gaps in global environmental commitments. 4, strengthening institutional capacity and systems. And the 5th one is science, innovation, and sustainable environmental financing. Distinguished participants and fellow panelists, no single institution or country can effectively address today's environmental challenges in isolation. The future of environmental governance will depend on 1, stronger collaboration among environmental authorities, shared technical expertise and resources, coordinated regional and global action, and collective leadership in environmental diplomacy. As I conclude, I'm encouraging us to engage in discussions, to remain focused on practical solutions, institutional transformation, and scalable partnerships that strengthen environmental governance systems across our region and globally. The task before us is not only to respond to environmental challenges, but to redefine how environmental governance is structured, financed, and delivered. I look forward to the valuable insights from my fellows. Once again, it's a great honor to have you here with us. We appreciate you, na karibuni sana. A warm welcome. My professor, if you'll allow me, I was kind of trying to save some minutes so I can do this in Kiswahili to reach a bigger audience. Mwezeshaji wetu, Professor Kennedy, pamoja na wakurugenzi wakuu kutoka mamlaka za usimamizi wa mazingira barani Afrika, mabibi na mabwana, Nina heshima kubwa kushiriki katika mjadala huu muhimu kuhusu kuimarisha utawala wa mazingira katika ngazi za kikanda na kimataifa pamoja na jukumu la kimkakati ya taasisi za mazingira. Kauli mbiu hii ni ya wakati mwafaka na yenye umuhimu mkubwa, kwani changamoto za mazingira ikiwemo mabadiliko ya tabia nchi, upotevu wa bioanuwai, uchafuzi wa mazingira, uharibifu wa ardhi na uharibifu wa mifumo ya ekolojia zimekuwa zikiongezeka kwa muunganiko, athari nyingi zikiwa na ukubwa mwingi na zinavuka mipaka ya nchi. Changamoto hizi haziwezi tena kushughulikiwa kwa kufanyiwa kazi kwa kujitegemea wenyewe. Athari hizi tayari zinaathiri kwa kiasi kikubwa usalama wa chakula, upatikanaji wa maji, mifumo ya afya ya jamii, uimara wa miundombinu na uthabiti wa uchumi. Hali hii inahitaji taasisi imara, uratibu wa karibu zaidi na mifumo ya utawala inayoimarishwa katika ngazi za kikanda na kimataifa. Ndugu washiriki wenzangu, taasisi za mazingira leo zinachukua nafasi ya kimkakati katika utawala wa maendeleo endelevu, zaidi ya majukumu ya udhibiti na utekelezaji pekee wa masuala ya mazingira. Zinahusika moja kwa moja katika: 1, ulinganifu wa sera kati ya sekta mbalimbali; 2, udhibiti na uwajibikaji wa mazingira; 3, ushauri wa kisayansi na kitaaluma; 4, uratibu wa utekelezaji wa mikataba ya kimataifa ya mazingira; na 5, kwa kuongezeka diplomasia ya mazingira na ushirikiano wa kikanda. Katika muktadha huu, naomba kuainisha vipaumbele vitano muhimu katika mjadala wetu jioni hii ya leo. Kwanza, kufanya taasisi za mazingira kuwa taasisi za kimkakati; 2, kuimarisha utawala wa mazingira kikanda; 3, kuziba mapengo ya utekelezaji wa ahadi za kimataifa; 4, kuimarisha uwezo wa kitaasisi na mifumo; na 5, sayansi, ubunifu na ufadhili endelevu wa mazingira. Ndugu washiriki wenzangu na wakurugenzi wakuu, hakuna taasisi au nchi moja inayoweza kukabiliana na changamoto za mazingira kwa kujitegemea. Mustakabali wa utawala wa mazingira unategemea: 1, ushirikiano imara kati ya taasisi za mazingira; 2, ushirikiano wa kitaalamu na rasilimali za pamoja; 3, hatua za pamoja za kikanda na kimataifa; na 4, uongozi wa pamoja katika diplomasia ya mazingira. Naomba nihitimishe kwa hivi: katika mjadala huu tujikite katika suluhisho la vitendo, mageuzi ya kitaasisi na ushirikiano unaoweza kuimarisha mifumo ya utawala wa mazingira katika ukanda wetu na dunia kwa ujumla. Kazi iliyo mbele yetu si tu ya kukabiliana na changamoto za mazingira, bali pia kuweka upya namna ya utawala wa mazingira unavyoundwa, kufadhiliwa na kutekelezwa. Ninatarajia michango ya kitaalamu kutoka kwa waheshimiwa wajumbe wa jopo hili, na washukuru kwa muda huu wa kunisikiliza. Asante sana facilitator wetu.
Tumpigie makofi tena. Sasa ndugu washiriki, jopo hili si vyema sana tukalifanya likawa jopo la kisayansi na kitechnicalities sana. Nafikiri ni muhimu tukalifanya likawa ni jopo la kuweza kubadilishana uzoefu na vitu ambavyo tunaweza tukajifunza, kwa sababu hizi ni mamlaka kutoka nchi za Afrika. Kwa hiyo ni vyema tukatumia nafasi hii kuweza kuwauliza waweze kushare experience yao. So I was saying that colleagues, we should not really reduce this session into a pure scientific session, sort of. Instead, our interest is rather to really have opportunity to share experiences across, various jurisdictions within Africa, and also take advantage of your presence to take note of key lessons that our NEMC or the future NEMA should also take on board as they forge ahead in many years to come. And that said, there are questions that you have already been shared with you, but I take note also you have been attendance this morning. A number of issues have been raised, and really some challenges, some achievements, and so forth and so on. So I think I would start really with the general question, which each one of you, I would appreciate to have your insight on it from your jurisdiction, especially in terms on what are the best lessons, particularly from the point of the National Environmental Authority within your jurisdiction, and also on how have you been able to move, for example, from the eloquent ratification of structures to hesitant implementations of your mandate, starting with the Republic of Kenya.
Thank you very much, moderator. Let me first take this opportunity to heartily congratulate NEMC on this auspicious occasion of celebration of the 40 years. Hongera sana. I am from Neema, Kenya, although many people in Kenya call us Neema, which means grace, right? Because when you are in charge of environment, it essentially means God's creation. You are in charge of water, air, everything. And it's a divine responsibility. And I'm saying this for NEMC, our colleagues, NEMC, as you transition from council to authority, this is what you need to remember. It's not very easy to be a regulator because our culture, we like littering the environment and expecting someone else to pick your waste. But you'll still complain that the town is dirty. But who generates the waste? Our mandate as NEMA Kenya is basically two. Although we also transitioned, moderator, from a secretariat in early 80s, National Environment Secretariat, to National Environment Management Authority in 1999 through an act of parliament that we call Environmental Management and Coordination Act of 1999. And NEMA was created in 2002. So we are 23 years old now, and we've done a lot of work. It's not very easy, but government can come up with regulations, policies, strategies, and all this. But unless the citizen take responsibility, individual and collective responsibility to manage the environment, then it becomes very difficult. NEMC alone will not be able to manage the environment of Tanzania. In fact, in Kenya, we have even put environmental issues in our 2010 constitution. The fourth preamble of our constitution is acknowledging environment, that we must preserve environment, which is a priceless heritage for now and future generations. Then you come down to articles in our constitution, like Article 42 of our environment, give each and every citizen a right to live in a clean, healthy, and secure environment. But what most citizens in my country forget is that the rights come with responsibility. As we say haki yangu, they forget about ni jukumu langu kuhakikisha nimekaa katika mazingira safi na bora. Na huko kwetu tunasema, this is my environment, it is my life and my responsibility. Ni mazingira yetu, uhai wetu, na ni wajibu wetu. Asante sana.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Professor, I just want to correct my neighbor. He said mazingara. That's related to sorcery.
No, I said mazingira.
Mazingira.
You didn't hear well, DG.
Okay, thank you for that. Then next, the Republic of Uganda.
I will be very careful not to use any Swahili word. If Kenya couldn't get it right, I'm not sure I will attempt. But thank you very much, our moderator. Let me add my voice to that of the DG NEMA Kenya to congratulate the people
and the government of United Republic of Tanzania, and most especially the team at NEMC for turning 40. Congratulations. It's not easy managing environment for 40 years. I come from Nema, Uganda, and we're always struggling because our acronym is the same as Kenya NEMA acronym. So we sometimes when we advertise for jobs, we get applicants from Kenya, and so, but our situation is not very different from that of Kenya. All of us being a Commonwealth jurisdiction. We became an authority in 1995. Perhaps I think it should be the oldest environment management authority. So we became an authority in 1995. And we are domiciled in the Ministry of Water and Environment, but as a statutory body with the 4 main functions: to coordinate, to monitor, to supervise, and to regulate. But put it in simpler terms, we advise government on policy relating to environment, and then we ensure compliance with environment policy once set by government through awareness, through compliance assistance, and of course through what people don't like, the stick or enforcement. That's what people don't like. They want carrot all the time. But from our experience, enforcement is also a form of education and awareness. When somebody is arrested, prosecuted, they will perhaps learn more than if they were taken through a lecture. Because learning through experience is more deeper. So our experience as an authority is that to be successful, you need the participation of all other players. Why? Because unlike other sectors, unlike say health, where a ministry or an institution can establish hospitals and deliver services, environment, you can't deliver it alone. Even if you put in 100% of your time and effort, and even if you had all the money from government, you cannot achieve environment alone as an institution. Now, our experience is that as a regulator, everything that fails in that space, the blame comes to the regulator, because people look at the regulator. But for the regulator to succeed, the regulated, as my brother Mamo has said, must conform to the policies and standards and guidelines set by the regulator. And most importantly, this is very, very important, because in our institutional framework, we have NEMA as the principal agency for environment management, but every segment of environment has a lead agency. A lead agency is the agency which is in charge of day-to-day management of that environment segment. For example, if it's wetlands, the wetland management agency. If it is wildlife, the wildlife management agency. If it is waste, the local governments, the urban authorities, you know. If it's about water, name it, forests. So if the lead agencies do not have adequate capacity to deliver their mandate, there will always be challenges. And those challenges will always be blamed on the coordinator, on the supervisor, on the regulator, basically. So as you move into an authority, don't forget the other institutions down, the local governments, because they are the ones directly in charge of day-to-day management of environment. For you to succeed, they must succeed. Lastly, as you move into the journey of authority, remember one thing. that being an authority does not mean you are now different from government. Quite often, because we are having this debate in Uganda today, rationalization of government agencies. You must have heard about this debate. You can never be independent of government when you are government. And quite often the fear of government to create agencies is exactly that you will become more powerful and be difficult to supervise. That's the experience we see. And so we must strike a balance. With all honesty, best regulatory practices will demand that the policy maker must be different from the policy implementer. That's very, very important. Because you cannot be the policy maker and the policy implementer. You cannot monitor your own self. There will always be inherent conflict. And once there is inherent conflict, you can never be successful. Because how will we even measure success when you are measuring yourself? So the policy maker must be different from the implementer. And when you take it even an extra mile, the regulator should also be different from the implementer. We must have policy and strategy as the cardinal role of the principal government, which is the ministry. And then we must have the regulator. The regulator is really like a referee in a football pitch. You are not a player, you are not a coach. You are playing a referee role. So a regulator or an authority, you are actually a referee between environment management agencies, call them lead agencies, and then the development, which is the rest of the citizens, the private sector, and everybody else. So you are in between. You are supposed to play a neutral role in the interest of environment, of course. So if an environment agency is too rigid to sabotage government, the regulator must stand out and say, here you are going extra mile. If a developer is bringing a development which is causing more loss in terms of environment and social safeguards than the overall benefit of that development, the regulator must stand out and say no. So you are an arbiter. But quite often, of course, because of limited resources, sometimes you may find the distinction between the manager, the regulator, and the policy is not as distinct. But as you transition, bear that at the, behind your mind, that the government cannot want you to be independent, but at the same time, you must strive to deliver the service. Now, so you need to strike a balance between being autonomous and being fused with the principal government. There is a saying, which will be my last statement on this. I don't know if the Swahili will be correct, but let me try. Uhuru bila uwajibikaji hudofisha serikali, lakini urasimu bila kubadilika hudofisha utoaji wa huduma. Does it communicate? Let me put it in English. Autonomy without accountability weakens government. And no government wants to be weak. So you must take note. Government must always win. Government must always be strong. So no government will ever want to be weak. So autonomy without accountability weakens government. But bureaucracy without flexibility weakens service delivery. So we need a middle line. Not so much red tape, but at the same time, bearing in mind that as an institution, you are part and parcel of government. You must toe the strategic line of government. Because as an agency, as an authority, you are an agent. Now, an agent must deliver the aspiration and vision of the principal, because you are in a principal-agency relationship. So you must never have absolute autonomy, but you must never have red tape. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The moderator, DG, permit me to stand on the existing protocol. First, let me congratulate NEMC of the United Republic of Tanzania on your 40th anniversary. We are glad to be here to be part of this particular exercise. And I think that there's quite a lot for us to learn, particularly I from Nigeria, because our agency was established as an autonomous structure only in 2007. So when I sit here to hear 40 years ago, I begin to think that quite a lot has happened, and I've seen that quite a lot has happened. And so it's a lesson for us, and I think that we'll have a lot to learn. So congratulations once again. In Nigeria, the National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency, for short called NESRA, was established in 2007. Before then, it was under the Ministry of Environment as a department. And since then, we have come as a result of a parliamentary act since 2007. And so the agency is on its own. Although it's funded by government, but it also has the capacity to generate funds, its own funds. Of course, you know that Nigeria is a very large country with over 200 million population, with a diversity of environmental challenges that cut across different spectrum of environment, that the dry Sahel region, to the mangrove Niger Delta, to the forest region and all that. These are all environmental specificities which the Nigerian environment deals with. And so for us, the Acts of Parliament mandates gives us a mandate as NESRA to enforce all environmental rules, policies, standards, and regulations in the environmental space. So as we speak, we have the powers to enforce rules, policies, and decisions of government in the environmental space. We also are given powers to enforce international conventions, treaties, and agreements for which Nigeria has entered into in the international space. We also have the capacity and the powers to ensure biodiversity maintenance and decide the nature and character of technology that should be used within the environment. These are all powers that we have. In dispensing these powers, there is no doubt that there are problems in the Nigerian situation. One, you are still under the Ministry of, we are supervised by the Ministry of Environment as a ministry that's supposed to deal with policy. And then you can find that sometimes, because of the historical origin of the agency, some of the people that were part and parcel of the emergence of the agency are still in the ministry. So they behave as though they do not know that this is an agency and an authority of its own. And so sometimes you find what appears to be some conflict. They want to enforce, take the actions and policies that have been given to you back to the ministry. So this is still there. That conflict is still there. Again, in the course of this enforcement, for us, at the moment, the ministry insists on enforcement. Since I assumed duty as a DG 2 years ago, this month will make me 2 years, I have tried to focus on enforcement, because I discovered that what has been the missing gap is the area of enforcement. But again, enforcement is so expensive, very, very expensive. How do you get the money to enforce at all times? And so we have tried to manage particularly industries, high polluting industries, in a manner that we also attempt to try to drive them towards voluntary compliance. And how do we do this? When we notice their actions on the high polluting side, we step in to shut them down. When we shut them down, they are forced to come forward. When they come forward, we try to not just use the big stick. We also create an opportunity for education. And sometimes I call for a meeting, even before we give you your penalties. I say, look, what does it cost you to respect the rules? And I tell you, look, it's cheaper to obey than to allow us to come and close your facility down. And so what we've done is to try to combine these two approaches. And then at the end they see. And we find out that in some cases, some of them are actually willing to follow the protocol. But sometimes, maybe out of negligence, they do not know how to solve some of their problems. And that's where, again, the technical capacity of the agency comes in. A facility is into, community is complaining, there's a odor that is coming out of your facility, there is this, there is that. We say, okay, odor, the community is complaining seriously for this high level of odor you're dispensing. What are you going to do about this? And so we are able to sometimes depend on some of our own technical staff to provide at least theoretical solutions to their problem. If they are ready to fund it, we also assist them to get technical staff from either technical companies that we know are good. Because for you to be in the environment in Nigeria, you must register with NESRA. As a consultant in the environment, you must be registered with NESRA. You cannot practice in the environment without registering with NESRA. So we have the knowledge, the database of various consultants with their different capacities. So sometimes they can run into problems and they do not know who can solve some of their problems. So for example, for that kind of facility, we were able to give them solutions. This is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. And then, okay, meet social consultants, they will help you out. You discover some of them are willing, and they spend, you see the amount of money that's involved in that, you discover that they are willing. They were able to put in, and then that problem is resolved. The community also becomes, the challenge you begin to find from the community begin to reduce because the community is no longer complaining. So that problem has been resolved. So a lot of issues. So for me, what we've done is also to say, we are going to enforce, we will shut you down, but at the same time, if you have technical problems that you cannot resolve or you don't understand the source, we could also lead you to technical partners that can help you solve such problems. But we will not compromise on the fact that there are complaints coming from your facility in terms of violating environmental regulations. As of today, NESRA has precised over 37 regulations in different spaces of the environment. In Nigeria, we have about 36 environmental regulations that we preside over. And so you can see how wide that can be. And then you have all this in different spaces. So for us, a lot to learn. And I think coming here today also, I have learned a few things sitting here to understand how your agency also runs. There are quite a lot of similarities. But I think that sitting down like this also from time to time as African authorities in the environment space in Africa, will provide us an opportunity to understand the gaps and how to build these gaps. Because I feel for as long as we continue to run in that isolationist space and we are not able to come together to identify gaps and build consensus, we won't be able to influence positions, particularly at the global level. But if we are able to identify our common gaps and identify these common gaps and problematize them, then they become an emergency at the global level when we present at the global level. We cannot sit here and be expecting the global community to determine what should become our own agenda in the global space. So I think that there's need for us as African authorities to continue to work together and share experiences in order to be able to define our own position globally. This is my contribution at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. May I now invite Dr. Kadewa, DG NEMA, Republic of Malawi.
Well, thank you very much. And I always say at any time of the day, whether it's evening or afternoon, so I'll say good morning. We can discuss later what that means. Let me also join the others to, first of all, congratulate NEMC for turning 40. It's been a long journey for you, I know, but turning 40 means there's also a lot that has happened. Actually, sitting here, I'm saying to myself, I've come here to learn, not to give any advice to a 40-year-old organization, because when you look at ourselves in Malawi, we are actually called Malawi Environment Protection Authority. I'll come to the word protection later on, but essentially we are 2 years old. 2 years in that the authority itself was created in 2017, but there was a lag in having it take off as an authority up until 2 years ago. So previously, all the functions that the authority is doing were being done under the department in the ministry. Actually, a lot of the things that colleagues have already spoken to are exactly the situation in Malawi. The fact that from 1996 up until 2 years ago, a department was handling the functions of the authority, and now the authority has come into place. It's a sort of like a divorce where somebody has moved away, but you want to cling on to the functions that you have always been doing. I always liken this to two pieces of paper that get glued together, and when you try to separate them, bits and pieces of one paper will stay with the other paper. So you have holes on this paper that's gone to one side. So that's what we see in MEPA, in our NEMA now, that some bits and pieces are still on the other side. But the law, our Environment Management Act, clearly stipulates the functions of the authority. So we have so many sections, but when you get to section 7, it says there shall be the authority. From then on, every statute starts with the authority shall, the authority shall. It doesn't say the ministry or the department. So then we sit with our friends and say, but the authority shall, and we are the authority. So that's where issues now start coming in. But one thing to do with this whole issue again is our colleagues from Nigeria spoke to the same, that you have to look at the national good and also utilize strengths from both sides. We realize that we cannot say we are the authority and therefore we have all the powers and move on, but there is institutional memory and experience on the other side that we need to tap on. So maybe that's one thing I would say to the 40-year-old child who is very old. But when you become autonomous, there is also the fear that you become too powerful. Because what has happened in our case is that previously, the environmental malaise or pollution and all those things that needed to be taken to task by developers and everybody else were not being treated at that level. It would just be a warning or a soft penalty. But when the authority came, the stick had to be heavy. Number one, to announce that the authority is now here. And number two, to also implement what is in the regulation. So a kind of fear started coming in that this little boy authority is too powerful. So let's tame them. And you get now some developers, particularly on the private side, jumping and going all the way to Parliament or to cabinet secretaries and ministers to say, can you ask them to tone down, please? But you say, we have the mandate to implement what the law says. So the flip side to all that is, because of the word protection in the naming of the authority, you also have largely the citizenry, the populace, saying that they are the stewards. They are the ones who are supposed to be protecting the environment. So anything that happens, whether it's a company or individuals doing things, what you see in social media, in newspapers, and even in written memos, it's the authority. Please go and sort this out because you are the protectors. Taking it from the, I guess, the meaning of the steward in a religious sense, that it's your duty to protect. But then we turn around and say, the duty is actually yours. We are only referees. We're here to make sure that everyone plays their game in a manner that does not affect everybody else's enjoyment and utilization of the environment. So we're in that situation now where the issue of sitting on the fact that we have a right to a clean and healthy environment and forgetting that a right is like a coin. On one side there's the rights, but on the other side there's the duties. So what that brings us to is one big lesson we've actually also learned. Last week we were in Kenya meeting our senior brothers, NEMA in Kenya, and 2 weeks before that we were in Ghana. One thing we've learned is the importance of awareness and information. That number one, make the people aware, make the other players aware of what their responsibilities are, yes, their duties, but then once they know what they're supposed to do, it makes your work a lot easier. So I think 3 months ago, there was one company that has been polluting heavily, and they've been doing that for 20 years, but nothing happened. And for the first time, besides giving them a penalty, the normal administrative penalties, we said restore and compensate everyone who has suffered harm as a result of your activities. Now, there were, after assessments, there were about 3,000 people that needed to be compensated. And the company says, no, we can't do this, it's too expensive. And we said, yeah, we'll work with you for the next 6 months, but the lesson is, so that you don't do it again, compensate the people. Now the people are also becoming more aware that they indeed have a right, but they also jump and say, but this company helps us, we get employed, we do this, we will work with them, so that together we get to a point where the company doesn't do what they were doing before again, but we also contribute to the company's success. So from there, we've also seen the aspect of hand-holding and moving together, which has been mentioned here, that it's not just a stick, but you also come and sit down on the table as the authority and pan out a way forward on how to handle things as players who are in the same space, in the same country, essentially. So those are some of the things that we have learned along the way, but great lessons also from colleagues in Ghana and Kenya, and already sitting here and listening to all the testimonies and everything being said about NEMC, there are already lessons that we're going back home with from what has been happening in the past 40 years. So moving to becoming an authority would just be a change of garment. But I'm sure you know that a lot of things that will be happening will still be pretty much the same. Maybe in terms of revenue and standing alone, I don't know how that works here, and getting your own monies to run your own affairs may be a new thing. That's what we've experienced with our central government saying, now that you're an authority, you take care of yourselves. Now changing from the divorce situation to saying you're a child who has left our house, so go and be independent, but you're still responsible to central government in that you have to tow the development agenda and support the national agenda issues at central government level. So that's what I would say really to speak to the question that was posed. But let me also thank in particular NEMC for calling this team here, because for me it gives me an opportunity, 2 years old, to interact with those of you that have been in the game, I'll put it that way, for much longer, but also for us to establish a network that will help us going forward. I've experienced at UNEA, at COP, the divided voices that we have in Africa, and at the end of the day, we do not get anywhere. But when you look at other regions, Middle East and everywhere else, they are always together and having policies that speak to their region. I mean, when you look at our countries, the language are the same. Yes, in Malawi we don't speak Swahili. We have broken Swahili in Chiti and Karonga. So a colleague from Kenya said, the Swahili in Malawi, you need to do a lot more to get to the level of Tanzania. But he confessed to say, don't take the Kenya route, but go the Tanzania. Yeah, but with language and culture and the borders and the fact that the environment, you talk about the air, the water, we share waters, our problems are the same. So it only becomes more important that we also develop our policies together, look at how we can cooperate within the region, and also using existing bodies such as COMESA, SADC, I know there's East Africa grouping, because we're in the same sphere, same culture, same way of doing things, same food and everything. So it strengthens us when we network this way and strengthen our voices, so that when you go to the other global platforms, we're able to hold hands and win for the people that we represent in our countries and for our region. I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I just want to remind you that our DG, Dr. Semesi, pointed out that life begins at 40. So you may be 2 years old, but NEMC is just starting now. So worry not. Well, that said, allow me to invite Professor Nana Ama Brown Krutze, the Director General, EPA from Ghana.
Thank you very much. I was actually going to say life begins at 40, so we expect a lot from Tanzania going forward. Let me also congratulate the National Environment Management Council for this milestone achieved over the 40 years of remarkable service and leadership in environmental governance. She's my sister. It looks like there are only two of us, the scarce species, in this continent managing the environment at that level. Thank you. So in Ghana, we call it Environmental Protection Authority. 52 years ago, it started as a council advising the government and later became an agency mandated to protect, coordinate, and regulate issues of the environment. 2025, that was last year, we became an authority with an expanded mandate to provide, thank you. So apart from the earlier mandate as an agency, there's an expanded mandate to provide oversight on all matters relating to environment and climate change. In Ghana, again, as many of my colleagues have said, it is situated in our constitution that protecting the environment is the responsibility of every Ghanaian. And so we are working hard as an institution to ensure compliance of this law. So as we have met here as colleagues from different countries managing the environment from these high-level institutions, I must say that we can do more than just regulating matters of the environment. We are strategically positioned to bridge the gap between science, policy and implementation. We have the expertise, we have the technical men, we have the policy-related persons, and what is left is to put all of this together for the implementation. One thing I want to also say to all of us is that we should compare notes. In fact, it will help us so we don't duplicate efforts. Let us learn from each other what has worked for us and what has not worked for us. And if we can even share notes instead of just comparing, share expertise, the better for us. I want to go practical here on single-use plastics. This is a big challenge for us on the continent. Ghana is still finding ways to ban single-use plastics, but we have issued, thankfully, on Monday, issued a notice on the ban of this styrofoam, or what they call polystyrene. We know that Nigeria successfully banned this polystyrene or styrofoam. Kenya and Rwanda have successfully banned single-use plastics. We should share as much as possible how this has worked for them. Ghana has also been successful in transferring its first carbon credit to Switzerland, and that is the very first transfer from Africa and the biggest credit in the world being transferred. Ghana again is implementing the GOSEMS, what you call the Ghana's online continuous emission monitoring system, which will help us improve compliance enforcement. So we are also available to share what we have been successful in doing, and we avail ourselves also to learn what other countries have successfully implemented. I will end it here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm reminded that 40th anniversary is usually a ruby anniversary. It's a ruby anniversary in terms of those people who are careful with anniversaries. And it symbolizes, among many other things, strength, maturity, wisdom, and so forth and so on. So this is really the time that we may also wish NEMC to enjoy and take note of the Ruby anniversary carefully, particularly given the presence of these shared regional experiences. That said, allow me now to really ask our hosts, our panelists, Dr. Semesi, who also gave the keynote address, to somehow reflect about key issues, really, just a point for reflections out of what you may have been able to, get from some of your colleagues from the region. Thank you. For a minute.
Thank you, Prof. One, governments are the same. Two, thank you for the caution of not being over-expectant. To be more mindful, we have to balance, and the central government is the central government, so we are taking that on board. Third, we are under the same sun, we are family. In the same continent, we are connected. The boundaries were just set up, but we are one, so calling upon for us to stand as one. We have now going towards having the same standard format of monitoring our environments. That is a good start, and I'm looking forward for that partnership and more communication in such platforms. I think we should come up with a resolution that will at least meet once a year. We rotate country to country once a year, and then we share such experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, DG. I think point noted. Shared experiences is the key because, again, the DG NEMA Kenya reminded us that environmental authorities as creators, something like that. So it's a very unique responsibility from the creator, so to speak. So, ladies and gentlemen, in front of us, you can see 6 strong heads of creators in their own jurisdictions. That said, I must say it has been an immense pleasure and honor for me to moderate this session. And I thank you very much for the opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, another big round of applause to the DGs and the moderator. Thank you for a fantastic session. Without further ado, let's all remember that kesho ni siku ya mgeni rasmi makamu wa raisi. Tutaanza saa 12:30 kwa kifungua kinywa. Saa 2:30 wote tunatakiwa tumekaa kumsubiri kiongozi wetu. Na kutufungia siku yetu hii ya leo, naomba nimlete tena Dr. Immaculate. Once more, we can't get tired of you. You are such an inspiration. Uweze kuwashukuru na kutufungia siku yetu hii ya leo. Karibu.
Asante sana Makani. Ninatoa salamu za shukrani kwa pekee kwa session zote 4, keynote speakers, panelists, moderators, washiriki wote, watumishi wenzangu na viongozi wenzangu, pamoja na uongozi wa wizara na bodi ya NEMC. Ninawashukuru pia kwa kipekee sana waliotuwezesha kufanikisha siku ya leo, wale kamati ya maandalizi. Mungu awabariki sana. Basi natumaini kesho, leo ilikuwa ni choko za mada, tufahamiane, tujifunze, tu network, tutengeneze partnerships na kadhalika. Kesho ni sherehe. Naomba niseme kwa capital letters. Kesho ni MC ananiambia ni bata. Basi kwa mantiki hiyo na angalizo tulilopewa, naomba tujitahidi kuwahi kama tulivyowahi leo. Tupate breakfast, tuwe tuna energy. Maana leo nilipata kionjo tu cha rusha roho, si ndio? Kesho ni full. Kesho ni upo daktari. Naomba muombe Mwenyezi Mungu atujalie hiyo nguvu na afya, na sidhani kama anaenda shereheni anakuwa na huzuni. Kesho ni matangazo ya Colgate tu. Tuna deserve celebration ya taasisi hii ambayo inasimamia uhai wa nchi yetu. Karibuni sana kesho, tukumbuke vitambulisho vyetu, na kesho tunakuja kwenye sherehe ya maadhimisho ya miaka 40 ya taasisi yetu. Karibuni sana na asanteni sana, jioni njema.